that's what
where
you've
any
already
single
got.
proposal
You've
is going to be
already got that. You got a president that committed
No,
crimes.
it is not like that. It is
and
not like
there's a
that.
Supreme Court now that said that, like, oh, like you can commit crimes. That's okay. You're immune. That's this scenario, literally verbatim, has already happened. No. Hold on. It's only a crime when you do a crime. To be clear.
I know, they make it a crime. If you're saying that Congress can pass a law making it a crime.
No, they can't. Because if they tried to pass, because the Supreme Court would strike it down as unconstitutional. What do you mean?
You're saying it isn't. I'm saying you don't think it is, right?
I don't think it's constitutionally protected to commit crimes.
I know, so they can make a crime for the president to talk to his DOJ, and you'd say that's okay.
No, it's not, because that's unconstitutional.
How?
I do think that's like part of establishing.
Why do you keep adding adjectives? Like, who's threatening?
I think that's part of.
It is a threat. If you say I will do this if X happens,
no one said that. He never said that.
Destiny, recently I DM'd you and talked to you a little bit about court packing. I asked your opinion on it. And you told me that you were okay with court packing if Republicans refused to pass an amendment or a bill that limited or changed how Supreme Court picks and nominees were handled. Can you start us off by just elaborating on what you mean by that a little bit?
Yeah, we should codify that. I bet it would be a bill. I don't even think you need to amend the Constitution. You should codify that it's a requirement that a president in office has a right to have their nomination at least heard in the Senate. That should be a thing. There should be rules that are made or whatever that within 7 days of a nomination or whatever, the Senate has to do the hearing or 30 days or whatever is reasonable.
Sure, and if they don't do that, to be clear, if Republicans do not pass that bill, pass that amendment, whatever it's needed,
then Dems should add as many Supreme Court justices that they need to the court to make that a reality, whatever they need to do there. So 2, 5, 20, whatever they should just do that.
Fair enough. And with that, let's get into it. I'm going to pass the mic to Lactoid. Tell us what you think, and then we'll just kind of go talk about it. Introduce yourself as well. Tell people who you are, why you're qualified to talk about this. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm Lactoid. I'm a streamer. You can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm also a lawyer, and I'm heavily against court packing. I think it's absolutely a nuclear option by any definition of the term. My position is that court packing essentially obliterates the third branch of government as a functioning entity, and therefore is a threat to our republic, and it simply should not be on the table. I'm not necessarily opposed to that proposed amendment. I think it's not a terrible idea. But this idea that, well, if we don't get our way on that, we're going to destroy the third branch of government, I think is just unworkable. The fact that the number isn't capped for Supreme Court justices, I think is a critical defect in the Constitution. That needs to be corrected. Without that correction, I'm concerned that the court might just turn into a rubber stamp for the president and Congress to essentially, they can get done anything they want to and really, again, obliterate, I think, the purpose of the Constitution. And on top of that, we have a candidate for president right now, Kamala Harris, who has made references in the past to being open to court packing, which I think, unfortunately, makes her a threat to our republic, too.
Can I really, really, really quick, can I run and use the restroom real quick? Is that okay?
No. Pee where you stand. No, go ahead.
Okay, hold on.
You don't have to ask permission. Go.
Well, I mean, if everybody just talks, I'm not here to hear it. Like, 1 sec.
Take a piss. Well, I'll entertain the audience while you're gone. Okay, it's no longer people watching on Destiny's end. This is no longer Destiny's stream. It's a Wick stream. So be prepared. Hold on to your britches, gang. We're going to get spicy in here. We're going to go. So rather than have everyone else just give their opinion while Destiny doesn't listen, I'm going to filibuster a little bit until he gets back. So that's what we're going to do. How's everyone been doing? I can't see Destiny's chat, by the way, or really, I can only see my chat, sort of, kind of. But to let everyone know here, just while we're out there, I think all the people here except for Gibbs are practicing lawyers. Is that true? Is that correct? Am I?
Yes.
Yeah. So we got cultist guy here, practicing lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the court outfit?
No, only sometimes. Only if the judge allows it, But no, it's the one that goes, I don't know why you guys do show your faces.
I think that would play well with the jury.
It has.
Look, if you come in a hood and
Harvey
robe,
Birdman, actually.
Right? If I'm on a jury, right, and I'm hearing a case and I'm looking to weigh in on the truth of a matter, whether someone's guilty or innocent, and one of the lawyers looks like you do, buddy, I'd be scared to vote against that client. Or
I'm just saying, human sacrifice is part of religious.
I actually have Destiny's already back. If you wanna see, look right here. She said she's the real Destiny, not him.
Hey,
Hello,
streamlined.
female Destiny.
Female
What is
Destiny.
up? Yes. No, but hopefully. Okay, great. The man of the hour is back. We can get back to it. We filibustered long enough. Okay, so we heard Lactoid's thoughts. Let's give the mic to Zetsui and see what he has to say. Go ahead.
All right, Zetsui, I am a Schizo Tier 5 DGGer and also an attorney, but that's less impressive. I actually agree with Destiny that, at least on the position of saying that that rule should be in place, I would actually say that it was unconstitutional for them not to hold the hearing. The implication of it being you have to get the advice and consent of the Senate, but they can just withhold it internally, I don't think was ever in the original meaning of the Constitution. But in terms of court packing, I don't think that's a nuclear option that I think exceeds like what you should really do if you don't get the amendment or if you don't get an action from Congress. And not only that, if you have the power to pack the courts, you probably have the power to also just get that through. So I'm not certain like where you get the power to do one but not the other.
Okay, well, thanks for being here. We'll see how it goes. Ryan Mullally? Is that how you say your last name?
Mullally, yeah.
Mullally.
So I'm Ryan. I'm a lawyer. I'm not a streamer, but I'm on X, so you can follow me. I occasionally say interesting things. One of the interesting things about this conversation is that Destiny's proposal is like flatly more reasonable than the Biden-Harris proposals, which is like an interesting state of affairs to be in, where, the streamer has the more reasonable take. But in any event, strongly opposed to court packing, and it's an empty threat. If you look at when FDR threatened court packing, and that had a real impact, he had 72 senators. So the court did take notice when he threatened court packing, and that did have an impact. It's not a realistic threat today, I don't think. And if it is a realistic threat, it's going to be because of a continual erosion of Senate rules, where we used to have a 60 seats filibuster for every judicial nomination, including Supreme Court nominations. And we used to have a lot of other protections that would prevent things. I assume that what Destiny's talk is referring to as the Garland nomination process, that were a check against things like that. And I feel like a constitutional amendment is like using a blowtorch on a mosquito. What we really need to do is try to fight our way out of this era of political reprisals back to the point where soft rules were able to control the decorum of these important issues so that we're not backing ourselves into corners with unintended consequences.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, Gibbs, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I guess as not a lawyer, but I have my background in political science and religion. I can't speak to all the legalese, but what I can speak to is, this seems idiotic, really. I don't know Destiny's specific opinion on court reform, but to me, I think court reform is bad in general. I mean, I heard there are people here today, there's a lot of lawyers that like definition debate, so I went and pulled one for y'all today from Merriam-Webster. It's moron. A stupid person, a person of having low intelligence or intellectual disability. Here, so let me use that in a sentence for y'all. You have to be either a moron or a product of the needs of participation trophy generation to believe that court packing is a good idea, or any sort of court reform pushed by the Democrats is a remotely good idea. The Supreme Court is working as intended. According to many political scientists, the three distinct branches of the United States government established by the U.S. Constitution is designed to be purposely slow but effective when needed. I'd argue that the Supreme Court is working as intended. This is clearly an attempt by the Democrats who've been outmaneuvered fairly in regards to the Supreme Court to take their proverbial ball and go home. They can't get to get their radical left agenda past the staunch bulwark of based or originalism that is the Supreme Court. And so what they want to do is flip the rules, flip the table, screech, and then sulk, and then change the rules to a game they're guaranteed to win. It's honestly pathetic. So let me show y'all something. This is what it sounds like when we talk about court reform to the average person. This is the world's smallest violin playing My Heart Cries for You, and that's what's happening right now.
And with that, let's open it up to discussion. So again, Biden has recently put forth a proposal that would do three things. It provided an amendment to the Constitution to make sure that presidents are not immune to being prosecuted for crimes done while in office, to propose term limits, and there was a third thing that I had written down, but I deleted it.
Enforceable code of ethics.
A code of ethics, thank you. Destiny, do you support that?
I think broadly speaking, all three things I would broadly support. I don't know the specifics of any suggestion though, so there could be in the weeds we would miss things, but the idea of anybody in the United States enjoying criminal immunity is obviously absurd. I don't know what Roberts and the rest of the supposedly conservative court were smoking when they came out with that decision. I think that the idea of an ethics restraint or constraint on the Supreme Court is obviously important. The whole reason why they have lifetime appointments is so that they aren't politically influenced, and if they can take bribes and gifts, that kind of defeats the entire purpose of that. And I feel like term limiting Supreme Court justices would probably be fair, because it seems kind of weird that we have like a Supreme Court lottery right now where you could get lucky and have 2 or 3 picks, and you could get unlucky and have no picks.
Limits are unconstitutional. You would need an amendment to have it happen. There's no chance of an amendment, so who cares? The same ditto with the immunity decision. If you want to get into that, I can talk about why it's a fine decision. But if you want a constitutional amendment to fix it, good luck. There's a 0% chance of that happening. The ethics code is the closest. They have one now, but it's not enforceable. And the reason it's not enforceable is who's going to enforce it. And if you were going to create a situation where you have Supreme Court justices essentially ratting on each other, I think that's going to make it even more partisan and more horrible then it's really become where we've had unprecedented levels of nastiness and opinions. And it seems like, there's some real tension in the court. So I don't see how that makes things better, though maybe there's some clever proposal. And of course, ultimately, the way that you enforce the code of ethics on the Supreme Court is impeachment. But again, there is not a clear political majority with the power to do something like that. So this is all kind of, I don't know. It sounds like pie in the sky theater to me at best.
I also want to add with the term limits, I think one concern that was brought to my attention somewhat recently, actually, that I didn't consider, is that if we implement term limits, I think there is a heightened concern for corruption, right? Because there could be certain justices, for example, where their term is running out, and perhaps they have there's maybe certain parties in front of them that they may have an interest in being affiliated with after their term is over. So a lifetime appointment, I think, at least minimizes this risk, which I think is a good thing. So I'm against that. I think a lifetime appointment is fine. In terms of code of ethics, I think it entirely depends on what the code of ethics is. I agree that it needs to be an amendment, but there could be a reasonable code of ethics that I could agree to, but it entirely depends what it's made out, what it is and what it's made out of.
How it's enforced. I'm not sure how you do that.
Sure. We talked a little bit about court packing being a threat. Given that, as Ryan here said, that a lot of these proposed changes don't seem to be starters politically, how serious of a threat do we think court packing is at all? Like, Kamala's threatening it. Do you think she'll actually do it or be able to do it? I don't know. I don't think it'll actually happen, but Republicans play this very clever game of saying that if Democrats do a thing, it'll destroy an institution when that institution is already basically destroyed. I think right now the issue that we have is that there is absolutely no reason in the United States of America that you should expect that a Republican-led Senate will ever allow a Democrat to appoint a Supreme Court justice ever again. There's just no reason to think that. So if that is the case, then Democrats should go nuclear and say, we are going to enforce a rule that makes it so the Senate can't do this, or else we're just going to pack the court. And the counter of, well, you're going to destroy the institution of the Supreme Court has already been effectively destroyed if Republicans aren't willing to allow Democrat presidents to appoint Supreme Court justices. That is a direct violation of what the Constitution explicitly spells out for the President of the United States, for the Supreme Court, and for the Senate.
Hold on. They appointed one, right?
Well, Barack Obama wasn't allowed to appoint one in the last year of his presidency.
No, I'm talking about Biden.
Jackson.
Justice Jackson.
Oh, sure. But I mean, maybe because they got their Garland pick, or maybe because they had 3 other ones that were already appointed. But we have no guarantee right now that another.
So you're complaining that they're just not skilled enough. This is a skill issue, is what you're saying. They're just not good enough at following their own rules.
Also, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait. I'm so sorry. That was a Democratic Senate also. Sorry. My bad.
Well, did they all vote no against? They're saying they all vote no?
What? I'm saying that if if there's a majority-led Senate by the Republicans, like it was under McConnell, when McConnell said he wasn't going to let Obama do anything, there was no reason to assume that a Democrat will ever be able to appoint another Supreme Court.
Skill issue. So you're saying skill issue.
Why do you say skill issue? There's no way you can overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called, make compromise, make agreements, backroom dealing, politics.
There is no politics here. It's an explicit power to the president that you should be allowed to, with the advice of the Senate, appoint a Supreme Court justice. There is no wheeling and dealing here.
He is right. I mean, the thing is that there's nowhere in it that says that you just can ignore it. And has that ever happened? Does anyone have a history of, oh yeah, no, there's plenty of times where the Senate just ignores their job and we're just okay with it. I'm not aware of, like, that's one thing I can't find.
No, this
So
has
I don't-
happened a few times in the past, just so we're clear, right? Like, it's not. I don't disagree that it's a problem, and I am against it. I would like to see an amendment codify some kind of process specifically that, within a certain amount of time, a justice is heard. I'm fine with that. But there has been multiple instances in the past where they've essentially refused to hear a specific nominee. So it has happened in the past. I don't know. If we can agree on that amendment, but I guess the question is, so sure, that's fine. Why court pack? Why threaten to, I think, obliterate our third branch of government?
Because it's already obliterated.
It's not already obliterated for multiple reasons. First of all, you guys the Democrats do have a justice that they were able to get through Biden, and on top of that, there's not all justices are created equal here, right? There are justices that I think are, come from the originalist rule of law point of view, and then you have justices that really don't believe in the rule of law. And so, while I agree that we should be, making sure things are fair going forward, I think we have one of the best Supreme Courts that we've ever had currently. Just in terms
none
of
that has anything
consistency.
to do. First of all, I don't even know what that, when we say originalist or whatever, I don't even know what that means in regards to this court. This court is far from originalist. And then secondly, it doesn't matter if you got one pick. The fact is that a Democratic president with a Republican-led Senate was deprived to pick by a Republican Senate that explicitly said, we're not going to let this guy do anything. Why would we ever assume that it wouldn't be the same going forward? Like, what guarantee would a Democratic president have?
You think that's going to happen if it was like the first week of a presidency as opposed to like the last year or the last month or two?
Last year, sure, why not?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm asking what you're saying, because you're saying ever.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it could. Yeah.
Okay, so you think like week 2, Harris has to fill a vacancy. You don't think that she's even going to get a hearing?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Nobody would have thought that Obama would have, like, I can't tell you for sure 100% because it hasn't happened yet, but nobody would have thought that Obama would have lost out on a whole year of the presidency for having, Merrick Garland was the longest Supreme Court vacancy where the Senate refused to hear a person ever. So
the Democrats have majority in the Senate right now.
Yep.
So why don't they just make a Senate procedural rule that says, in the event of a Supreme Court vacancy, the judicial, I forgot what it's called, committee, whatever it's called, that runs that process will promptly and in no more than 30 days give their recommendation and hold a vote.
Well, if it's a simple Senate rule, couldn't the Republican Senate just repeal the rule?
Of course, but I mean, if the goal here, and I hope this is the goal here, is to return to a point where we're not testing all the guardrails constantly, and we're trying to actually create systems that function and work. They could do that tomorrow if they wanted to. It wouldn't be a good electoral issue to run on, and it wouldn't be like a sexy issue, but they could do it. And then if the Republicans dismantle it later, that you would have a great point about, we can never trust them again. But I mean, it seems like there's a fix on the table for them right now.
I don't understand what it should be a law. It shouldn't be something that should be easy to get rid of. And it should be, I don't even think you need an amendment to do this. It would just be, this is in the Constitution.
No, you wouldn't need an amendment for that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you don't even need a law. You could, this could easily be a procedural rule. I mean,
but I wouldn't want a procedure that could easily be rescinded with a 51 vote majority, because then there's no point in having it. At that point, it's just.
Well, okay.
Anything less than an amendment you wouldn't accept?
No, I think you can probably have a law for this, because I'm pretty sure this is constitutional. Like, this is just, it's spelled out in the Constitution that the president ought to have this power. It's not like you're doing anything like that would require a constitutional change, I don't think.
So I guess what I'm getting at is that there are kind of like these guardrails that were built into Senate procedure that were intended to force it to be a chamber that kind of that works together and is in some way collegial. The 60-seat filibuster was a version of this, right? Where it's like, well, you kind of have to compromise because even if you have a slim majority, you can't just slam things through. And a lot of Senate rules work like that. I think we're finding, to our displeasure, that it works better when the Senate does work that way. And to me, the only way that you're going to fix that is for the party in power voluntarily take a step that lessens their power.
Yeah, that's
Because if
never
you're-
going to happen with the conservatives, and the Democrats shouldn't do it anymore. It's absolutely absurd to expect a Democrat anything to do it when Republicans have constantly abused their power. They are constantly only in power because of the way that land is allowed to vote, the structure of the Electoral College. They enjoy very broad systemic power built into the Constitution. So no, I don't think a Democrat should step back after we've already lost a Supreme Court justice, and now we've had these ridiculously insane Supreme Court rulings as a result of the 6-3 or 5.5, 3.5 court. Like, no, that's absurd. No, a Democrat shouldn't be the one to step back. We should make a new rule in the Senate that should be passed by law, not something you could just rescind with a simple 51 vote majority. And anybody that opposes it, fuck them. And if it's Republicans that oppose it, then just pack the court, because the court's already fucked anyway.
But that's the sour grapes right there, right? Because that's the problem. When you say like, oh, well, we have to do it right now and it has to be this way, and they're making these ridiculous rulings, then it just sounds like, well, we don't like how it's going, so we're going to knock over the board and make new rules.
That's exactly what's happening.
That's completely what's not happening.
If you don't have the power and then you want to kick the board over, it just seems like you're losing.
Well, we have the power right now, right? The Democrats do?
Yeah, but you don't want to do what I suggested. You don't want to voluntarily step back on power. That's what you just
Wait,
said.
what do you mean step? How is this no, I'm just saying that I don't know how any sane human being could say it's a bad idea to make a law that says that the Senate has to hear a Supreme Court nomination within, 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. How could you ever oppose that? That's not even favoring one side. That's just...
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad.
I don't think. Hold on, just to be clear, I don't think anyone, maybe Gibbs, but most of us don't oppose that, right? What the issue at hand is, if for whatever reason this doesn't go through, then we are okay with court packing and other quote unquote nuclear options in order to make sure that it is our way or the highway. That, I think, from my understanding, is what most people here view as the actual issue at hand.
It's the reaction to it, not because I think everyone here would support that. And so then if they try and say no on it, you can use it as a political tool to try and gain the power to actually pass the law. That'd all be fine. But when you're saying like, I'm going to pack the court if you don't, or because what you're saying, you think it's already obliterated. You're saying that because of Garland.
If you're the kind of person to say no on this, right? Like imagine if we were husband and we were making a rule in our house, and I said, hey, I just want to propose a rule, by the way, let's vote on this. It says we're not allowed to poison our partner's food, and you vote no on that, I'm killing you that night. Like, what the fuck? Like, why would you ever vote no on something like that? If the Republicans are like, actually, no, we're not going to guarantee this. Okay, well, my assumption is going to be because you want to use this as political leverage somehow in the future. I don't think we should play that game. I don't think it's right that you can deprive a constitutionally allotted power to the president for political reasons. That's insane. That should be a very easy law that every single person in Congress should support.
I agree, and so should have all the other ones regarding like interracial marriage should have been passed as a law. All the other substantive due process things, those should have been easy things that you could have passed.
Well, the substantive due process, this is much more complicated than a very simple Article 2 power that is very simply allotted to the president. The president is allowed, with the advice and consent of the Senate, to appoint people to the Supreme Court. It's very, very simple, very constitutional, very easy.
I agree. I think it's unconstitutional that they didn't. In contracts, there's a thing called the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. That there's that when a rule says like you will give me your advice and consent, the idea isn't haha, I tricked you. As long as I never give it to you, you lose. There's an implied there that you will actually consider and give an answer. And so the thing is, I would say that yes, it was unconstitutional for them to just refuse to hold the hearing. In fact, it's worse than that, because even their statement of saying like the whole Thurman rule, where they're like, oh, well, let's let the people vote. If Hillary had won, they would have just like immediately put Garland on the court. They said under Elaine, like for fear they go, oh, she might put up someone more liberal. They were like, so it wasn't even they were opposed to Garland. They were literally just, it was purely a power play.
Yeah.
Like bold face. And so like you're pissed. I think that's reasonable. I'm just saying like you seem to be going nuclear. And I'm just saying I don't think the nuke is the right response. In the same sense, if someone said that they won't vote on poisoning you, we're married, and I say no, I'm not going to vote to poison you. You stab me. I don't think that was the right response. Leaving would be a good response, or not eating any food I made.
Well, we can't leave, and we can't just not participate in government. Like, why would we? If you were a Democrat, why would you ever assume that a Republican is going to let you have another Supreme Court pick ever?
Why isn't the threat like for like? Why isn't the threat, well, unless we pass this amendment, if we're in a similar position, we're going to deny you guys a pick too?
They almost were.
As opposed to a situation of we're going to implement a system where we're going to pack the court, where we're going to completely obliterate the legitimacy entirely, right? Because you just put 20 people, like you said before, 20 people that will just rubber stamp anything that you get forward, anything that you put forward. And then you're going to have the next administration do that, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And now we have Congress and the president. That's what we have now. We don't have a court anymore.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean,
at least now we have a court.
Barely, maybe, but some people would argue maybe we don't. Yeah, some people would argue that some of the decisions that have come out might have been different if Obama would have been allowed to have his Supreme Court pick. Right, we're sitting on a 6-3 conservative court.
They would have been more politically motivated as opposed to like actually constitutionally motivated.
Oh, as opposed to people like Thomas or Roberts who aren't politically motivated at all, or Kavanaugh who's not politically motivated at all. What does that statement even mean?
The concept about originalism is you're trying to minimize like political hackery, right? The point is that you're interpreting the law as it was written, and that's what these justices profess to do. And they've been doing, I think, a relatively good job at it compared to prior courts, right? I mean, you have the Dobbs decision, which was, I mean, people have been shitting on Roe versus Wade for how long? For being just completely constitutionally suspect, for having no basis. And then this is the court that actually has like the gall to do the right thing constitutionally and overturn it, right?
Wow,
this is, I think, one of the most principled courts we've ever had.
Wow, one of the most principled things that they could have done was the most politically charged Republican issue in the history of the last like 70 years of the United States was abortion. Interesting. Wow, what an originalist court that they took that brave decision and overturned it. How would you defend something like the immunity ruling that has no foundation in history?
Bernie Sanders was even shitting on Roe versus Wade. We have, people who Justice Ginsburg. You have people who support abortion that were like admitting, this case is terrible, because the case is terrible. This concept of like the same people who ratified, the 14th Amendment, then went on to like ban abortion, that somehow they intended the penumbra of privacy within the 14th Amendment to apply to abortion. It completely pulled out of the ass. And this was one of the more principled courts to actually overrule that. Like, I think that's a testament to how principled this court is. And the immunity decision is not as, I know that you don't like it. And yes, because it's Roberts wrote it as opposed to Alito. There's some issues with it. Sure. I wish that I would have done it differently. But, that doesn't come out of nowhere. There actually is a basis here in the separation of powers to have presidential immunity, right? There is a basis there. It's not completely ridiculous.
It is completely ridiculous.
No, just like you can't have, the judiciary go after the president outside of the realm of the Constitution, and you can't have the president go after Congress outside of the realm of the Constitution. Like, there are certain constitutional powers granted to the president that you don't get to touch using congressional action, right? That it makes sense.
I mean,
here's a couple things. First of all, what you said about the 14th Amendment and the intention of the 14th Amendment is not really relevant. The idea that because the 14th Amendment happens and then, 100 years later you get Roe v. Wade, that doesn't matter, right? Like, are we going to say that Brown v. Board was a bad decision because the people who passed the 14th Amendment wouldn't have thought that 90 years later, all of a sudden we're going to desegregate schools? Like, that's not how constitutional law works. You don't look at like, well, what were all of the potential, unforeseeable things that could have, you read the letter of the law, you look at the history of when it was implemented, and then you try to figure out like what it meant, and then you go from there. You don't have to, like, if a law isn't passed immediately after an amendment, you don't get to say 90 years later, oh, well, the original framing of this amendment wouldn't have mattered, as long as the text is clear.
When you said like you try to figure out what it meant, what do you mean by that?
As in, I don't know how to make that any simpler. As in, when the framers passed this law, what was the law supposed to do? What was the
exactly? What was the intent of it? Right? Yes, that is originalism. Yes.
What is the intent of what? Yeah, but what is? What does that have to do with what you just said? That like, how could the 14th Amendment ever have allowed for Roe v. Wade?
Right, because the drafters of the 14th Amendment, right, immediately after the Civil War, went on, like you look at the timeline of abortion being illegalized in the United States, it was the same, government, the same people that passed the 14th Amendment that were also banning abortion in the States. And then we have Roe versus Wade, 100 years later, and they're saying, well, actually, the 14th Amendment protects the right to it, like the penumbra of privacy. 14th Amendment being a big part of that. That protects the right to abortion.
So then, would you argue
which makes no fucking sense?
So then,
it also doesn't make sense that like estrogen and progesterone are somehow like, and Thomas was the only one brave enough to even challenge this, that estrogen and progesterone are somehow also covered by privacy, but fentanyl and cocaine are not. That doesn't make any sense.
Would you argue that Brown then was poorly decided, that should be overturned because how like the 14th Amendment people didn't have anything to say about desegregation at the time?
I think there's issues with Brown versus Board of Education. I would support a law. I would absolutely support a law, but constitutionally speaking, I think it's suspect. Not nearly as much as Roe versus Wade, but yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Okay.
I mean, but I think more broadly speaking, like there's two dominant schools of constitutional theory, right? There's originalism and there's living constitutionalism.
No.
You can break it down into a million subdivisions, but there are two versions of this. And I think that if we're getting to the point where we're going to say that the other side isn't just wrong, but unreasonable for having that school of interpretation, I don't know how we move forward in a kind of rule of law based society. Like, there are different schools of thought on this. It's not like people just made it up last Tuesday. There's like boatloads of law review articles and constitutional theory. Like, this is one of the most written about things in all of American jurisprudence, right? So like, I don't know that we can get to the point where we're saying, well, just because people are originalists, they're crazy and unreasonable and they're making terrible decisions. That those are kind of the two buckets, right?
Well, no, people say this, but it's the dichotomy is far blurrier than people give it credit for. For instance, like the originalism argument that the conservatives on this court are somehow originalists. Any originalist argument is completely lacking in like the immunity ruling. There's no foundation in historical in any law or anything relating to support that. That's like a brand new, like Roberts crafted everything brand new. This idea of presumptive immunity, of criminal immunity, all of that was just fabricated in that ruling. There's no historical basis for any of it.
How do you figure that? How do you figure that?
How do I figure it? Well, the fact that there is no, how do I figure a negative? There is no historical basis for the president of the United States being beyond criminal prosecution.
All right, so we got three lawyers here. Let me just ask a question. How does generally the Supreme Court determine like what is case law? Like they look at cases prior, right? Correct? Like, so you're sitting there saying there's no legal basis for them at all in any previous rulings, not in the Constitution, to come to this conclusion.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is what I'm saying.
The whole case was a historical analysis, right? There absolutely is like historical analysis.
Yeah, it's just wrong on its face.
To be clear, no, it wasn't. That's why the only case they can cite had to do with civil immunity, which was the Fitzgerald case that they cite to over and over and over and over again. And it's why even the justices that wrote in the Fitzgerald case said that obviously this wouldn't apply to criminal immunity. And Roberts doesn't cite any type of historical precedents at all because we're Americans. The idea that the president of the United States would never be immune from criminal law. Why would you even assume that as an American? That's just like, on its face, it's absurd, obviously.
If we're going to do this, maybe we'll do this as easily as possible. The president has total, sole, and exclusive power over the pardon. It's his. It's not Congress's, it's his. So Congress can't pass a law that says the president can't issue pardons on Wednesdays because it's not their power. They don't have that power. Similarly, they can't pass a law that says the government will do no business on Wednesdays, and if you do business on Wednesdays, it's illegal. And then if the president issues a pardon on Wednesday, prosecute him for doing a pardon on Wednesday. There must be immunity, at least in these core areas, because Congress has no power to criminalize it.
The only thing that would make this work, is if Congress were to pass a law saying it's illegal for the president to do some job. We're not even talking about passing a law that criminalizes the behavior of the president. We're talking about the courts being able to review a crime that the president committed, not the direct exit. No one's talking about banning presidential powers.
They can review it.
But this, I'm walking you through the logic of why.
Yeah, and I'm explaining why it's illogical. You've never needed immunity for any of this. No,
the Constitution that they were looking at.
No part of the president's job.
So they said there must be areas where the president cannot be criminally prosecuted because his power is exclusive. Congress has no power there. So to the extent they pass a law that seeks to criminalize behavior over which they have no power, it is unconstitutional because they have no power.
The Constitution's above Congress, right?
About in her concurrence, she was saying it's really an as-applied challenge. What you're looking at is the president did something, and then you say, oh, well, if we apply this generally applicable law to him, would we be legislating something where Congress has no power? If yes, he's immune. And I think that is like fairly straightforward analysis of the structure of the Constitution and the separation of powers.
Yeah, but none of the president's powers that he executes have ever called into question whether or not he's committing a crime while executing them. This is a constitutional protection that didn't need to be granted by the Supreme Court because it's always been there. Nobody's talked about arresting the president or saying the president's committed a crime when he's carrying out his duties as president.
It's always been there. So wait, there is a historical basis for this then. So you're basically, earlier you were saying, hey, no historical basis. Now you're saying, oh, well, there was this other case, but I don't like that case, so let's ignore that. Oh, it's always been implied, so the history's there. So you're just basically like, which is it? Is it never been there historically, or has it always been there historically?
There's never been a historical criminal immunity granted to any member of the U.S. government.
Okay.
There's also never before now been a prosecution of a former president for a criminal act that was allegedly part of his rule.
Yeah.
kind of
No,
power.
nobody,
So,
no
yeah.
sane person believes that Donald Trump was functioning in his powers of the president, except for Roberts, who was on crack when he wrote that decision. That there is no part of what Donald Trump was doing that was his official role as president that the courts are now trying to review. That's just not true. No president
No,
is.
no, this,
If
no,
I
this
may,
is actually interesting. Pisco and I had an argument about this for a long time, but I don't want to get
yeah,
into this.
just real quick, right? I don't mean to interrupt the back and forth. Interesting, right? But I have a question for Destiny. You mentioned earlier that you think that that SCOTUS as an institution is rather destroyed. Were
Obliterated.
you being hyperbolic about that? Do you think that the SCOTUS as it exists today, the makeup of it as today, do you think it's just kind of a rubber stamp for Trump at this point?
I wouldn't call it. I don't think it's a rubber stamp for Trump, but I think that the fact that we're going to have a conservative court for so long now, as a result of the Republicans abusing their power and acting unconstitutionally in the Senate by depriving a Democrat of his rightful, constitutionally allotted Supreme Court pick, that is challenging to the constitutionality of the or to the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. Absolutely, it is.
Thoughts?
I agree. Like that.
I
think that behavior. I think was awful. The thing is that it justifies so much stupid shit. But like everything he's saying is like, because it's like you can always kind of just, well, then why didn't they hear Garland's? They could said no. They wanted to say no to him and said like, we give us someone else, but they didn't do that. They sat on their hands, did nothing, and then spewed bullshit like, oh, let's let the people decide. When that was never even their thought. They were to confirm Garland immediately if Hillary won. The thought was just, and people for some reason swallowed it. And then not only that, you go, no one took action to stop it. And I think that does justify a level of piss. I would have been, if Kavanaugh hadn't been actually gotten in before the election, and then they had blocked that seat for 2 years, I think that'd have been a good tit for to go like, no, pass the law or we'll block it for 6 years. You had no reason for 1 year. We'll do it until you pass the law. But that I could see you saying, make a law that stops us, and it stops you too. But when you're saying no, nuke everything if you don't get a procedural thing that I agree with, but it's just, yeah, it feels like you're using a very large hammer for a very...
Yeah, but then the problem is that people like you are going to make the same argument if it happens again, right? We're going to be in the last year and a half of Kamala's presidency. It's going to be a Republican-led Senate, and there's going to be another Supreme Court pick that gets passed. And now I'm looking at you, and you're like, well, it's pretty shameful, and it's really horrible that the Republicans done. And then the next year comes like, well, but would you really nuke everything? Like, how far does this go? Like, it's already insane that a Supreme Court pick was deprived of a Democrat, right? And now we have a 6-3 conservative court for who knows how long. Like, that already happened. That's insane. And now it's like, well, let's just see what happens in the future. Until when? Do we lose another one? And then let's say hypothetically that what I just said happens again, and now we're in 2029 or whatever, and now we're having this exact same debate, and Republicans have deprived 2 different Supreme Court picks to a Democrat. Now do you agree with them? And I'm like, okay, well, they should just pack the court if they won't pass this law? Or do you make the exact same argument?
How would you have the power to pack the court but not to fix it? Like, how are you having, like, you going, I have so much power to do, like, I can't get a 1, but I can get a 10 through. Like, if you think you can pack the court, the thing is, do you think Republicans should just pack the court then as well? Because, like, I mean, if you're saying it's obliterated and it's already over,
Republicans don't need to pack the court. They've already gotten their.
I'll also say, like, this is something that I think we've got principle on, which is that let's say it doesn't happen the way you described. Let's say the next let's say 2 more times or 2 times in the future, the Democrats do the reverse to the Republicans essentially and block 2 picks. None of us here are going to be advocating for packing the court if that happens, despite the fact that, hey, the Dems got 1 up on the Republicans. But nobody here is going to say, well, the response to that's going to, hey, we better pass an amendment, otherwise we're going to pack the court. No, it's packing the court's not on the table.
Yeah, even if you end up with like a 9-0 liberal court due to specifically that, let's just say every single time, every single justice now gets hit with that, and the Democrats win every single time. Turnabout's fair play. They use the rule that the Republicans started.
First of all, but carry on.
I mean, the whole country's doomed if we have a 9-0, so it doesn't really matter at that point.
Well, let me ask you a question. I
I
want to know what's going to prevent this. This is the situation I see playing out. So here's what happened. We had basically the Senate follow the rules. It's within the rules that were set at the time. There was not enough tools for the Dems to stop them from like doing this under Obama, right? And so now they're worried it's going to happen again, or they're complaining. So basically, they want to change the rules, right? So what happens if they get what they want and they still don't win? Right? Like, let's say they still lose, they still don't get the Supreme Court, or somehow they're held up and the Republicans outgame them again. How are they going to come back and bitch next? Because that's what this is. It's just going to keep changing the rules till they win. At what point does this stop? That's what I want to know. When does it stop? Is it only stop whenever they get what they want, or is it stop whenever they realize they're just bad at gaming the system?
The rule that I'm suggesting is bipartisan. This is not a politically biased rule. Everybody should agree to this rule. Like, and if we pass this rule or this law or whatever, and then for whatever reason the Democrats lose the election and there's another Supreme Court pick from a Republican president, then that just is what it is. But that has no impact on this law.
Yeah, I agree. If you could actually get public support over that, the thing is, I don't think anyone's going to care enough, so it's not going to be. But if you could make it a national issue that says, here's what we want like within 90 days, you have to hear the hearing, like whatever, and you get the answer from every senator and every single person in Congress. It's not going to change, even though like we would all agree with you. The problem is you'd have to get the public to care, and if they did, then yes, people would take that position and pass that law. But the problem is, I don't think people are going to care enough to get that kind of support over it.
Well, this is the problem. There's a theater aspect to this. This is what I was saying at the beginning. Like, you could fix this with a Senate procedural fix, and if you have the concerns Destiny articulated, you could hide the you could mask the procedural fix with a filibuster, so that you have to get to 60 votes to change that particular procedural rule, and then the Mitch McConnell maneuver with the Judiciary Committee is dead. Now, I think what this is raising is the kind of the larger question here, which is like, if there was no Judiciary Committee and there was just an up-down vote on Garland, and the Republicans voted no because they had enough seats to vote no, I don't know that that's going to make Destiny any more happy than he is today.
Well, but at the very least, they're voting, right? Like that was the whole issue. Even when people point back to because Republicans because Republicans won't take accountability for literally anything. They'll go, oh well, Harry Reid, he suggested the nuclear option, and this is where this all started. Yeah, but the reason why he suggested is because Republicans wouldn't vote on anything. I think it was like there had been 20 filibusters for federal judicial nominations in like the past 2 decades, and in the first couple of years of Obama's presidency, there were like 30. It was unreal. It's not that they were voting them down; they just wouldn't even have the vote. And McConnell explicitly said, we don't have to guess. McConnell said that my goal is to make Obama a one-term president. He wasn't going to let anything through the Senate. This can't happen. It's not okay.
If the issue is the procedural rule, why not fix the procedural rule? Change the way the Judiciary Committee is structured, and say that you can't change it again without breaking through a 60 votes filibuster.
I mean, if you can do that, sure. I think that's fine. You can do that. That's okay. But
you could do it tomorrow.
I don't know if you can isn't the cloture, like the ending of debate, isn't that always 51 votes? I don't know if you can change that with just another rule or if that has to be a law. I'm not sure.
If you can just get people to care about it. The problem is if people, politicians will respond what the public care about. And the thing is, if they cared about this, then yes, you could get it to a vote. The problem is and the idea of going into court packing, I'm not certain how you're going to get the power for that. Because again, if you have so much power that you're just like, I'm just going to overwhelm an entire branch of government. You're like, but you can't pass a procedural rule like that. Your limits are.
A question for you, Zetsway, then.
Sure.
I do have a question for you, but I have a question for Destiny as well from the audience, which I thought was well articulated. So I'll ask that and pass that on. If Kamala is running on a system where she does say, "Hey, I'm open to packing the courts," which she did in 2019, right? She did say she's open to that idea. And the public knowing this, or at least being made aware of this by advertisements and things like that, vote her in. Is that not the public being okay with this?
Maybe, right? But also, packing the court is a nuclear. That's a really bad thing. Nobody should want the court to be packed.
Really bad thing.
But nobody should also. But what the Republicans did was also a really, really, really bad thing.
Yes.
But the Republicans have no accountability.
Can I ask a question real quick? Sure. Let's say Republicans oppose the amendment that you're proposing. They just reject it right out of hand. Would you be in favor then of Kamala Harris just simply ignoring the Supreme Court as opposed to packing it? Because in your words, they're obliterated anyway. They don't really have any legitimacy anyway. Would you be in favor of just Kamala Harris? The Supreme Court says, no, don't do that. And she says, no, fuck you.
No, I think that packing the court is more within the bounds of the law than just ignoring it.
So what's the difference in effect?
Well, it's not about what's in effect. It's about what's the law, right? And there's nothing technically blocking you from putting more Supreme Court justices in. Ignoring the Supreme Court, would be a betrayal of the three branches of government, right? It just doesn't work at that point. You've destroyed your judiciary. Kind of like what Republicans have done now with the immunity ruling and the president.
No. I think you're right. You would destroy the judiciary. But I think when the effect is the same, right? We're talking about the same effect. That's why we're saying packing the court is destroying the judiciary, right? That's why we're saying it leads to that, because the effect is the same. You just put 20 sycophants on there that are going to do whatever you say, and then, rule however you want. And then you've essentially done the same thing as just ignoring the Supreme Court.
Would you agree that that it would destroy the court if a political party said we're never going to hear president's Supreme Court pick again if it's from a different party?
I don't think it would destroy it. I'm against it, but I don't think it would destroy it.
Why not?
Because you could very easily have the other political party do the exact same thing. Like, we're also never going to hear your picks, and so you have a situation in which, like, now the circumstances. Yes, we have a Supreme Court.
Well, but then I could argue the same thing
functions.
with court packing. Court packing won't destroy it because the other party can just pack the court when they get in.
Yeah, well, I understand, but like this is what destroys it, right? Because now the Supreme Court is full of sycophants for every single administration that comes in. It's much slower, right? If you have a situation where you can't just do that every single administration.
Yeah, but people would argue.
Where instead,
people argue that that's already happened.
The back and forth.
It's a 6-3 court.
No, instead the back and forth is going to happen. Like, yes, over a long period of time, you're going to have a situation where you can only really get a Supreme Court pick in if you control, the Congress and the president. But that's going to apply to both parties, and you're still going to have like a slowly changing Supreme Court that's not going to be able to rubber stamp every single agenda that the incoming president has. But if you pack the court and both parties want to do that, you're going to have a rubber stamp that's going to say yes to anything that goes through. Why would they not?
We already have a 6-3 court for like the next generation. Like this has already been a huge problem, but like you guys are just like brushing over that, like, oh yeah, this is kind of bad, but like court packing would be horrible. Like something horrible has already happened. The immunity decision.
I also don't see what it has to do with what I said.
Wouldn't have happened with one more liberal on the court, guaranteed.
This is a little bit of a pivot, right? Because we were talking specifically, why won't they just ignore the Supreme Court? Oh, because that'd be destructive of the whole process. And then in effect, court packing is the exact same.
You're betraying the government.
Well, hold on. This is how it's different than court packing, right? Yes, I know you're saying it's 6-3, but it's not 25-3, right? Obviously, there's a difference there.
Wait, these six are ruling against each other a lot, by the way. Substantively, there's a difference between like nominating a corrupt judge to a courthouse and ignoring everything from a courthouse. Like there might be both bad even, but they're different things in substance. These are two different things. Ignoring the entire judiciary is different than packing the court, which you could argue, hurts the legitimacy of the judiciary. But these are two different things.
No, it doesn't just, it obliterates it.
If you do it.
Why would it obliterate it?
Again, because you get a president that gets elected, and let's say they have congressional control, and the established norm is here you just pack the court. Well, I'm going to find 25 sycophants that just do whatever I say, and I'm going to put them in the court, and I'm going to get everything that I want passed guaranteed, because I'm going to find the people who have my exact agenda. This doesn't even guarantee anything. Who have my exact agenda. I'm going to put them on the court. Currently, we have 6 justices that are quote unquote conservative. They're incredibly principled, and they disagree with each other very often. Gorsuch ruled in favor of giving Native American tribes half of Oklahoma.
That's great.
And ruled that you can't fire people for being trans.
The courts don't pass laws. You can't pass a law with a court. So saying that the Supreme Court will give you everything you want doesn't even make sense, because you still have to get it through Congress. Okay, number one. Number two, if you wanted to pack the court, you'd still have to have the Senate approve every single court pick that you have. So you're getting at the very least your entire party to go along with it, assuming you've got a majority. So even what you said isn't true. No, there's a difference here between ignoring the court.
You're missing the point. You're missing the point. What I mean by that is that, yes, you're going to have control of the Congress and the president, but then the Constitution is no longer a barrier, because you're going to have every single president's going to have enough justices on the court to say whatever they do is constitutional. Oh, you want to do something crazy that you just have enough like burning the flag, for example. Let's say you have a Trump-like figure who gets elected, and then he's super in favor of criminalizing burning the flag, and then he packs the court with 25 justices that all agree, yeah, you should be able to punish people for burning the flag. Great. Now the Constitution is been destroyed essentially.
Sure, but that's what you've already got. That you've got a president that committed crimes.
It is not like that. It is not like that.
And there's a Supreme Court now that said that you can commit crimes. That's okay. You're immune. This scenario literally verbatim has already happened.
This situation has not happened.
Okay.
The thing is, you're talking exactly the dissent in the civil immunity case. What you're saying is exactly what they said then too. And I asked you before, has that happened? Has there been massive amounts of civil damages done by presidents to people? Have they actually done the thing you're saying they're doing? Because the dissent in that opinion said the exact same thing you did. We just gave the president the power to just do massive civil damages to anyone and be fully immune, and said this is insane. And they said the exact same thing. And it just didn't, but it doesn't happen. And the same thing here is remember, it has to be a core power. I'm just not certain what you think is going to happen that didn't, that hasn't already.
First of all, I don't know the types of civil damages that the president could do. We're talking of a totally different kind of thing than criminal activity.
And more inclined to do it, why haven't they? There's even
why
less
haven't who?
For criminal. Why didn't Trump use it? Why didn't Trump use it?
Trump
civil
did use
damages
it.
to, like,
He committed
violate?
crime. Oh, why? I don't even know.
Like, why didn't he use civil? Why wouldn't he use it to make money? You could just basically buy things and then just not pay them and goes, I have civil immunity. Screw you.
You mean like
Why-
having
if
like
he's-
his Supreme Court or having his like Secret Service people like stay at his resorts every time he goes out golfing or whatever? What do you mean?
No, I mean, like, you could make a contract and then just not honor it and just go, you can't sue me for civil damages. Or even just what happened to Nixon. Just say, I'm going to pass laws that screw over people, that make them lose money, and just say, you can't get me civilly, even though I even announce intentionally that I'm doing it.
For civil litigation, don't you have to have a particularized person? You can't even, I don't even know if you can even point to like an entire law like that passed, right? Isn't that part of like civil litigation, is particularized injuries that are done to individuals in order to have standing to bring case?
I don't know where we're going down. It fits.
The idea that like the president could abuse this particular thing, there's a reason why a president might be super motivated to commit crimes, and we don't have to imagine that. We can just look at the last president. But in terms of like the president conducting himself in a way where he's like incentivized to commit like civil crimes, I don't think it maps on as cleanly at all. And also, is the implication from Fitzgerald that like you wouldn't be able to is there an implication that if Nixon had a private business and let's say Nixon sold hot dogs and he scammed or he sold some poisonous hot dog to some person, would Fitzgerald have protected Nixon from being sued as a private citizen if he did that while he was president?
I think so. The majority doesn't. The same thing here, where you're saying that the dissent in this one says that SEAL Team 6. The majority doesn't say that.
The majority does sign off on that, and the majority does say.
The majority says, you're saying in there it says SEAL Team 6 and kill anyone you want. God giving powers.
Correct. And the majority, the majority explicitly protects. The majority explicitly protects Donald Trump asking the DOJ to send out lies from the DOJ to every state. That's not a core power of the president.
Destiny.
Wait, make him answer that. Don't let him escape from that. To be clear, you do recall that, right? Roberts told Trump that he is now allowed to do this thing. That's not a core power of the president, right? To tell the DOJ to lie to states.
To talk to your attorney general. If I said that you can, okay. If Congress said, actually, the president can talk to his attorney general, but only if we say but it has to be approved by Congress first. Otherwise, it's a crime. It's a criminal act for the president.
No. Hold on. It's only a crime when you do a crime. To be clear,
I know they'd make it a crime. If you're saying that Congress can pass a law making it a crime.
No, they can't. Because if they tried to pass, because the Supreme Court would strike it down as unconstitutional. What do you mean?
You're saying it isn't. I'm saying you don't think it is, right?
I don't think it's constitutionally protected to commit crimes.
I know, so they can make a crime for the president to talk to his DOJ, and you'd say that's okay.
No, it's not, because that's unconstitutional.
How? It's a crime. You said the president has no immunity from crimes. Congress can pass any law they want. They can make it a crime for him to basically be the president.
If the president has in the Constitution the ability to appoint officers and to communicate with his officers, how could you criminalize that behavior?
Exactly.
Well, there is immunity.
That's what we're saying.
No,
that's the official act that you can't criminalize.
There's immunity.
He's not being charged with picking his heads of his departments. That's not the crime that he's being charged with. If the president, under what he's being charged with, you're telling me that if the president goes up to the head of the DOJ and says, I want you to go and cut like 15 people's throats, else I'm going to fire you, your argument, Robert's argument, is that would be immune from criminal prosecution because he's allowed to.
No, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't be.
It would be. It would be, and you're absolutely wrong. It would be, and you're absolutely wrong. And there's a reason why. There's a reason why Roberts doesn't touch the SEAL Team 6 thing, despite the fact that it came up in oral arguments, and despite the fact that it comes up. And so what?
You said he agreed with SEAL Team 6.
He doesn't touch it. He's strangely silent on it.
He agreed with it.
Yeah, because he literally explicitly protects behavior.
That's not silent. Which is it? Did he agree or was he silent?
He agrees with it in principle by the fact that he buckets some behavior where he says this is an absolutely immune thing. I'm sorry. Where in the Constitution does it say that the president is allowed to tell his DOJ to lie to states? Is that a constitutionally protected power?
Nope.
Okay, but wait. But it is true that Roberts said that that's beyond criminal prosecution now, right?
Power to talk to his DOJ.
About anything? He can say anything he wants?
Nope.
Well, then why is this protected?
This would be full because talking to his DOJ about election things is what they said would be the core power.
It's not. What core power is that?
Investigating and prosecuting crimes, Destiny. That's the core power.
I'm sorry, the elections for the states are not in the purview of the federal government, okay? Generally speaking, number one, there could be some exception to that, number one. And number two, he wasn't asking them to investigate. He was telling them to lie about an investigation.
That is the category of immunity that the court articulated. It was the police power. investigating and prosecuting crimes and talking to your subordinates about the investigation and prosecution of potential crimes. Now, you and I might agree that he was wrong, but like him being wrong doesn't mean he wasn't talking to his subordinates about investigating and prosecuting crimes.
It's not about him being wrong. It's about him committing a crime. It's about him engaging in criminal behavior that is now beyond.
And this is why why the court made that rule. You understand that if you have immunity unless you committed a crime, there is no immunity.
Correct, and
right?
there shouldn't be immunity.
That's a total
Yes.
circle. Like,
No, it's not a circle. You just said
President
something
is
so
illegally
smart there. The
president.
president shouldn't have immunity from committing crimes. Presidents have never thought that. Nobody has ever thought that. Why did Nixon accept Ford's pardon? Why did Ford even pardon Nixon? Like, why would he do it?
That's a great question. I actually think Ford pardoned Nixon to avoid a situation exactly like this, where we were forced to confront the question that is better off without an answer. I think we all were better off in a world where we weren't getting into this kind of tit-for-tat reprisals. And
this is not a...
It is a tit-for-tat.
To be clear,
reprisal.
it's not
exactly
a tit-for-tat reprisal. Donald Trump committed crimes, unprecedented crimes, in office. In office, it is a president that is committing crimes.
They were pretty goddamn bad.
What?
The internment camps.
Hold on. I can't hear. Ryan, you said something. I'm curious what you just said. I didn't hear it. Repeat that, please.
Crimes were pretty goddamn bad. I mean, the reason why that pardon issued is because this sort of constitutional crisis is really rough on everybody. It raises serious constitutional questions, and I would posit that we were better off for the immunity decision. I think this is the kind of thing that we're better off doing in a soft way, but now we're in an era of tit-for-tat reprisals. And I think we're going to be in it for a while. And if we're going to be in an era of tit-for-tat reprisals, I mean, candidly, do you think if Trump wins, he's not going to find some way to prosecute some Democrat for something? If not Biden, then someone else? I think he would. The immunity decision probably will come in handy. This is, if we're going to be in an era where people are going to really be testing the guardrails like this, then the guardrails have to be firm. I preferred the era where we didn't test these guardrails and we got to do things through soft power. But if we're going to have to articulate rules, we need rules.
You say tit for tat. What was the tit for this tat?
No, it's a potential. So let's say that the immunity ruling went your way, and then now he wins, and then he goes right after Biden and throws Biden in prison. Would you support that and just say, well, Trump found a criminal for him to commit, he can throw them all in prison? You just support all of it?
No, because that's not how any part of the government works.
Well, no, I'm saying that if they come up with a reason, a law he broke, what was the one he impaired an agency? Like, it doesn't take that much to get it.
If somebody is able to present an indictment, if somebody is able to present an indictment to a grand jury indicts, a prosecutor takes him to criminal court, and in front of a jury of his peers, he gets convicted of a crime, then sure. Which is exactly how our criminal system is supposed to work.
What's the great quote? I could get an indictment for a ham sandwich.
Yeah, can you get a beyond? I'm sorry, can you get a beyond reasonable doubt conviction for a ham sandwich?
No, you said indictment. I was talking about indictment.
No one cares. We're not talking about indictments, though. We're talking about convictions.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were talking about indictments. So
no, I'm talking about a conviction. We're talking about convictions.
Biden definitely did. Just to be candid, and I don't think he should have been charged, by the way. So I have
a couple super chats that are useful to read a little bit, so I'll go through them real quick. And Peace goes knocking down my door. So if everyone's okay with having him on,
I'm my buddy.
With it too. But it's if you guys aren't okay with that, just let me know. $20 from Honkler to say, so sorry about what happened to your stream yesterday, Wick. Just want to show my support. Solidarity, brother. $10 from Aircraft Sparky. Destiny's pitching a fit over Garland not being confirmed as a result of Joe Biden's precedent set in 1992. Learn some history from other sources of Wikipedia. Okay. $20 from
that guy?
from No Step on Snake to say, just to be clear, and this is a question that I actually am curious what Destiny would say. If Garland had gotten a hearing and been voted down, would everything be okay in that point? Or is Obama entitled to a PIP, in your opinion? What's your thoughts?
He's entitled to at least have them heard. If they had been voted down, we'd be having a different type of conversation. I mean, if they're voting down every single one in bad faith, I don't think that's good. But he's entitled to have it heard.
The reason they didn't have the hearings is because they would have voted yes.
Okay. And then $20 from Pondering Politics. Justices are appointed by partisan actors and confirmed by partisan actors. Why or how would a greater number of justices appointed by this exact same process destroy court legitimacy? Isn't court legitimacy already under fire from ethics scandals and brutally low polling? The Constitution doesn't give a number of justices. Did Washington destroy court legitimacy by appointing more than the Chief Justice? Did Adams and Jefferson, two founding fathers, when they changed the court size? How did McConnell not destroy court legitimacy when he withheld Garland and crammed through Amy Coney Barrett? Wick, this is a fat wad, so I want answers. It was $20, dude. Calm down. Okay, but that is a question, right?
I think it was Gorsuch. It was Gorsuch, right?
Now,
Yeah, Gorsuch was the one. Well, no, but Amy Coney Barrett was after.
Oh, sure,
Jay.
sure.
But no, but also Kavanaugh was the one they were saying like it was right before the election. So they were trying to say like,
Yeah.
I thought we're about to have an election. Shouldn't you let people vote? And then suddenly.
Well, let me ask this. Maybe I'm a little confused constitutionally here, but I was under the impression that it said the Constitution empowered the Senate to advise and consent, but it doesn't require them to do so, right? So if they're already saying we're not going to approve this person, why would they even put this person in there? I don't understand why. Like, it doesn't seem to me like they broke any rules. It seems like they worked as constitutionally intended, and we're just throwing our toys on the ground and crying because we got outmaneuvered. That's what this is. That's what it is. It's a temper tantrum.
You think the intention of the Constitution was for them to say like when they wrote that, so the advice and consent of Senate, the thought was, and that by that we mean don't even hold an election to hold up anyone until you get your guy. Like that wasn't. The idea was
there's nothing necessarily like similar to court packing. There's not it's not necessarily prevented, but like it is a horrible outcome.
Yes.
The 1992 point though is true. I just looked it up and I actually wasn't aware of this, but Biden did argue for delaying a judicial nominee until after the election in 1992.
Wasn't like
for it.
Yeah. So I mean, Jesus,
but that's
right?
not what they were doing.
Wait, what does that even prove? Wait. What does that prove?
That the current president argued for doing this prior?
Did it happen?
The thing that you think is so terrible that I agree with you is bad, but like that you think Republicans, man, they do this, they don't play by the rules, Republicans are awful. I mean, how many times have you said that just this discussion alone? And then like Joe Biden was saying, yeah, we should do this thing that you think is terrible back in 1992, and now he's the president?
Did it
That's
happen?
relevant.
How many people were arguing for it?
So it looks like it didn't happen. But he, the current president, the current Democrat president, was advocating for it. This thing that
they even refer to it. They even refer to it as the Biden rule.
But also, again, that wasn't even what they were doing. Remember, if Hillary had won, they said they were going to confirm Garland immediately. They weren't going to let Hillary have a pick either. Like they said, like as soon as like goes to make sure because Garland wasn't as liberal as they might worry about. So they weren't like, I know they said that they were spewing bullshit. Like that was just something they came up with. They weren't going to confirm it. They go, can we come up with something that people will swallow? And that's what they got. And so, but no, that wasn't like, because it never happened. It wasn't. And so the idea that goes, oh no, we held some principle standpoint. Did they stand with Biden on that? No. Then why are they acting like it's a principle? They didn't care about it then.
We can all say like, look, whenever the Senate or the president takes an action that makes the court seem like more of a political body than a legal body, that is bad for the rule of law. So what McConnell did is bad for the rule of law. What packing the court would be bad for the rule of law. I think when you're doing it, for me, I actually draw the line. I'm really sensitive to this. When you have a nominee in front of you, if you're asking how they're going to decide a particular type of case, I think that's bad for the rule of law. I think what's good for the rule of law is the idea that judges are smart lawyers who are going to do legal reasoning, and they're going to interpret cases in front of them as fairly as they can. And the further we get pulled away from that, that's all bad for the rule of law. So, I mean,
question for you, Ryan. Question for you, Ryan, on that. And Pisco's backstage. I'll pull him in. If you have an objection, you don't have to raise it publicly. Just DM me, and that's fair if you feel peer pressure. But if
you can bring Pisco in, can I do a quick plug? Pisco and I did like an hour and a half solid on the immunity decision where he just yelled at me. It was a lot of fun. So I don't know where he archives his content, but if you're interested, go watch it.
Fair enough. But for you, Ryan, the idea that the courts are too politicized now, right? How, in your opinion, do we get away from that? Like, isn't that just the nature of the beast when it comes to people being appointed by political actors, that you are always going to have political appointees?
It is to a certain extent, but I think we have to I have a streak of West Wing idealism in me. You have to start treating the justices like justices rather than political creatures. If you talk about them as political creatures, and the court is guilty of this too, it's part of my
But
problem.
they behave like political creatures.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that as much as Destiny disagrees with this,
Look at the 2000 case with Al Gore. I'll use that as an example, right?
Mhm.
Do you think that those weren't just entirely on political lines? All the Republicans just happened to interpret the Constitution in a way that prevented a recount, right? But all the liberal justices happened to interpret the Constitution in a way that would allow a recount. You don't think that politics played into that at all?
No, I mean, I think politics does play into it, but the important thing is that we limit it to the extent possible.
You minimize it.
And this is not going to be perfect. It's like this is kind of a weird analogy, but often one of the mistakes people make when they talk about originalism is they say, "Oh, well, in this case, you didn't apply originalism." Well, it's like, no, we try to find the original purpose when possible. We try to limit political influence to the extent possible. This is the art of, what the best we can do. The best we can do isn't going to be perfect, but we need to believe that the court is engaging in legal reasoning and making decisions on the basis of legal reasoning. Because if you don't believe that, then to a certain extent, the court's is already non-legitimate.
And also, remember, the vast majority of cases are 9-0. We don't like these ones where they pop up and where they have these political lines. Let him piss. But yeah,
buddy.
Go.
Oh, I wish I
Well,
could
no,
plug
finish
in.
your thought. Finish your thought before
Sorry,
you jump in.
but
I didn't mean to interrupt.
well,
Go
that
ahead.
was basically it. That the majority of cases are 9-0. We don't have if we were having if it was 6-3 every single case, I think there would be to go, holy shit, how is it that there wasn't a single case that anyone can agree on? That creates a problem. But when it goes, we have, are we at record highs for 9-0 decisions? The idea of saying, I can think of one case, it's because that's the one that gets the news. Most people don't care about most cases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Pisco has successfully weaseled his way in. What are your thoughts?
Thank you so much. First of all, Wick, many thanks for responding to my direct message. Thanks to everyone for being on this very informative panel. I think this is an incredibly important issue. And so I'm thankful you guys are talking about it. And again, much love to all the panelists, including, but especially the lawyers and Gibbs and Destiny as well. I would like to start
While we're figuring that
at
out,
SEAL Team 6, because that was a
wish
little
I could
bit of...
find the site, but there was a website that was
Are you
tracking-
talking
Hold
while
on,
I'm
you're-
talking?
What's going on? Why isn't Pisco finishing?
Are you?
Ryan.
Oh my God, I bet he has him blocked. Does he?
Ryan, am I blocked? Can you hear me?
Oh no.
He
You
totally
can't hear
does.
Pisco, can you?
I mean, I asked if you were okay with this, and no one DM'd me. No one at all.
I didn't block him. Ryan, can you nod if you hear me?
He's
You
not
can't hear
hearing you.
Can you hear anybody?
Can you hear Pisco? Ryan's not talking. Can you not hear me? Oh, he can't hear any of us.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you guys.
Oh, can
Can you hear me?
Did you
Pisco?
No, I can't hear Pisco.
You're going to
have
need to
him muted?
unblock him.
Did you block me?
How? I'm not a
Here,
Discord user. I have no one
Right
blocked.
click. So find Pisco in the channel and right click him. Do you have him muted or something?
No.
Or you can right click him on the Discord call, like his picture.
Yeah, I am not a
Unmuted.
Discord user. I've not blocked anyone.
Wait.
or
If you
muted
right click
anyone.
Pisco, what does it say under apps, invite to server, remove friend? Underneath remove friend, what does it say?
It says add friend block.
It says
then
add
if you
friend
go-
and then it says block. Oh, and then what is his user volume set to? Is it at
Yes.
100% or is it at 0?
What's he at? Is he?
It's 100%.
And then
Is
the
it
mute bar,
mean? You
there's
can't hear
nothing-
me at
no
all?
mute. We can all hear you.
Okay,
for
maybe
some
this was
reason.
a bad idea just from the tech perspective.
Wait,
Gotcha.
underneath the user
How-
volume thing, is the mute checkbox, is that checked to the right?
No, it mute's not checked. Mute soundboard's not checked.
Maybe just have him
Not
leave and
friend,
come back.
not
Sometimes,
friend.
mine did this
Yeah.
yesterday. Just have him leave and come back. Mine did some
Yeah.
kind of weird thing yesterday.
Yeah, can both of you do that? Try leaving and coming back.
Yeah, I'll come. I'll leave.
Yeah, just jump backstage and I'll pull you
Yeah,
back
unless he
on.
blocked me. I don't know.
Well, no, because I wouldn't let. I don't. You'd still be able to hear. Okay, I don't know.
This
Never
this
block
is
anyone.
beautiful.
Hey,
I
Ryan, can
love
you hear me
it.
now?
This is why I don't like. Oh my god.
All right.
Okay. While we fuck with tech, $20 from DJ to say if presidents are entitled to immunity from crimes, can the president not use the military to delete/eliminate conservative Supreme Court justices and pardon the military personnel who carried out the act?
Oh, we'll get into that. But first, Ryan, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's all we need.
It
All
was
right.
the Discord.
I would like to start on SEAL Team 6 because I was a little confused, Ryan. When we finished our conversation earlier, it seemed that you had granted that the police power, which is your basis for, and I suppose the court's basis for structuring out or charting the core executive function of the president, includes the authority in certain circumstances to use lethal force. I thought you agreed to that, and you agreed that killing of a normal citizen, we'll get to the prominent citizen, would be covered by absolute immunity, provided the president write some kind of pro forma memo that said all these kinds of conditions were met out. I thought you had granted that would be absolutely immune. So I'm confused now you're not granting Stephen's invocation of that.
Yeah. A ground rule, though, I'm not here to relitigate you guys' previous conversation.
Sure. We can start fresh. Why is it that you're not granting Stevens?
Go back out to like first principles and then.
Okay, sure. The police power of the president, to the extent that it includes, ordering of investigations under certain circumstances and ordering of arrests under certain circumstances, would also include ordering lethal force under certain circumstances. Would you agree with that?
Let's back out even further.
Okay.
The presidential police power is primarily prosecuting and investigating crimes. It does not include assassination orders.
Does it include ordering? Does it include ordering the use of lethal force under certain circumstances? Yes or no?
Ordering. This is where we're going to get really in the weeds on a technical back and forth that we had if we go down this road.
No, we won't. It's an easy question. You can say no, or you can say yes, and you can explain.
The answer to that question is there is no such thing. The police power does not include unconditional kill order.
I understand.
The police power can include the use of lethal force in certain situations, which is where we're going to go, the road that we want to go down here.
Perfect.
What it does not include is saying you kill this person, flat stop. That's not something the police does.
Would the police power of the president include ordering the use of lethal force to stop an imminent deadly threat against United States citizens?
We're gonna go through this whole line again.
No, we're not. Okay.
Why can't we go down this line?
Because we have 6 people on this panel, and I want to make sure that it's a conversation we can all have and not just 2 people back and forth. Pisco, let me ask you just real quick. Court packing. Destiny says he's in favor of it if they don't pass.
Absolutely 100% in favor of court packing. It is the most clear and obvious policy position that you can be in favor of. These people have this idle talk about how somehow a statute packing the court is better, more worse than the unilateral withholding of the constitutional prerogative of the Senate to hear a president's nomination. There's a concept in the law known as waiver. And that waiver ought to be, Obama should have, in my opinion, just installed Merrick Garland after the Senate refused to do their constitutional duty to hear and give advice and consent and give an up or down vote. Here's the problem, right?
Wait.
At the very minimum.
Before we go into Pisco's opinion on this, okay? Because I feel like Ryan got off on a technicality. Okay, just a quick thing. So Pisco wanted to challenge you on ordering the president using the policing powers to assassinate an American citizen. And I think Ryan is correct in that, you can't the police are never allowed to assassinate somebody. But why can't Pisco's question just be very simply reframed as a military order matter? The president, do we all agree, or Ryan, do you agree that the president has the unilateral ability and authority to assassinate political, or not political enemies, but enemies to the United States?
So this is going to get into a few very technical areas pretty quickly. If you're saying SEAL Team 6 does it versus the FBI does it, you're talking about different presidential powers, which would have different perimeters and different articulations of immunity.
Sure. So, when Donald Trump assassinated when Donald Trump assassinated Soleimani, did he have to ask Congress for authority on that?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
just assume no.
So I imagine. So what if he wanted to assassinate? So here's a question: do you think that he should be criminally immune then from that assassination?
Do you think he should assassinate? Do you think that the president should be?
No. I want Ryan.
Yes. This is a difficult question, and Pisco and I got into this on the last conversation. The reason why this is hard is that Congress does have a lot of coextensive power over the military. So it's very possible that we're not in core immunity, we're in presumptive immunity. So the question then, there's a question about whether it's core or presumptive.
Wait, can I ask a quick, hold on, can I ask a quick question? Hold on. You say they've got overlapping powers. My understanding is Congress can't issue direct orders to the military, no? Isn't the only overlap? What?
They can regulate the military.
So, but they can't issue
Congress can regulate the DOJ as well.
Yeah, but in terms of ordering, having the final say, the president is the commander in chief, right?
100%.
The Congress has more power over military and military operations than internal DOJ policy.
Garbage. Congress could get rid of the DOJ if it wanted to, correct?
Yes, they of course could get rid of the DOJ, but we're talking about their capacity to regulate internal procedures like who
Congress could eliminate all the jurisdiction of the DOJ. Congress could say DOJ.
Wouldn't it be easier to just have him give you guys a core power? Just say, Ryan, what is a core power of the president, and then go give your example.
No.
There is no core power with respect to military. That's what he's about to say. Yes or no?
I don't know whether there's a core power.
You don't know whether there's the chief executive, the commander in chief. You're unsure about whether there's any core powers attached to the commander in chief role. That is insane.
Do you think yelling makes you more persuasive?
It's just ridiculous where we're at. You're trying to find any way to distinguish Roberts' opinion. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. No, stop.
So,
just stay on top.
Wait.
There's a law called the Wartime Powers Act. We don't know whether it's constitutional or not because it's never been tested.
There are laws about the DOJ. There are laws that regulate the Department of Justice.
It regulates the extent to which the president can use the military for war. So if that's constitutional, then there's a lot of coextensive power. If that's unconstitutional, it's more likely to be core. We don't know the answers to the
Anything
question.
you say about the military is going to be true about the DOJ. Congress has absolutely a coextensive supervisory role over what the DOJ does or what it doesn't do. It absolutely controls the purse strings in so much as it controls the purse strings of the military. So anything you say about the nature of congressional control, about the nature of congressional control over the military is going to be true, if not more so, the Department of Justice.
Okay, no, I want to get back to a question to something that Destiny brought up because I think it's very important, and I'm just curious what Destiny thinks about this too. Do you think that that Congress or the criminal justice system should have the power to prosecute a president for the drone striking of how do you say his name? Soleimani?
No,
yes,
that's not really the interesting question.
Hang on a second. Yes,
but the problem is now I see what's happened. This always happens with every conservative is that they start saying insane shit that because I want to answer to Pisco's question now. The DOJ was created by Congress, so why wouldn't the coextensive powers or operation of the DOJ, which is authorized by Congress and the officer that is appointed there, it was all of it. So tell me, how could that be constitutionally immune? It seems like you've walked yourself into the exact trap that somebody tried to lay for you, where they're saying if the president can talk to his officers in the DOJ is literally made by Congress. How is that a core and exclusive power?
Stephen, can Congress declare war on another country? Yes.
Yes.
Can Congress tell the president who to investigate for crimes? No.
No, but hang on a second. Can Congress
deploy the military? Wait, or even more precisely, hold on. You said Congress can declare war on a country. Can Congress deploy the military to another country?
No.
Okay, wait. So then we've identified a core, exclusive, conclusive, right?
Well, no. The question then is, and this is going to be what would happen, and Pisco hates it when I start doing this because it's judicial realism, but when it goes back to the court, the question is going to be how do they define the role and how do they police the boundaries of the role? And this is going to be a pretty technical analysis, which we don't have briefing on and we don't have a decision on. We can speculate.
Sure,
but that's what the court would do is they ask.
I understand, but in good faith, can we probably imagine a world where the Congress is the one that has to declare war and approve, the use of the military for war, but the president, who is the commander in chief of the military, who has offices underneath him for secretary of the army, that of all these, right, that he's probably the one that's supposed to conduct the war? That's probably true, right?
And I think probably what would happen if in a situation where the president used the military to assassinate a domestic political rival, probably, and I don't want to get into the treason thing because that's a whole other topic, so
You
I'll
better
bracket
not.
that piece go. But probably the court would say that isn't the type of thing that we want presidents doing.
True.
We think
Okay,
this is
sure.
in-
Let's.
is all
yeah, wait.
realism. This is
Let's.
all
I understand.
realism.
Let's say I agree with all that. Okay. Let's say I agree with all of that. Okay. That's fine. I'll
and then,
agree.
then they say we
should.
should.
Let's say I grant all that. I grant all that. Okay. Soleimani, you agree that the president had the ability to do that beyond criminal review, right?
Only yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's say that you wait to assassinate Soleimani until he's hanging out with Obama. Why would this suddenly be allowed to be reviewable by a court? Wouldn't it be the exact same thing?
Wait, so I'm not sure I understand the hypo. Soleimani's hanging out with Obama, and then they drone
Former
strike.
President Obama and the president in charge, not really going after Soleimani, but with the intention to just kill Obama, has this pretext to have a drone strike to kill Soleimani, but that's the sort of stated rationale, and Obama dies as a result, even though the true intention was to kill Obama. That's the hypothetical.
That's the hypothetical now? Okay. I think that this is probably what's going to end up happening is that in this situation, again, I don't want to go down this road because it's a long one, but there's another treason argument that I can make at the end of this if we're interested. I think what the court's probably going to say is that this is outer perimeter immunity. And then they're going to ask whether this is the kind of conduct that we're trying to chill.
Wait. You have to explain why. You say this is outer perimeter conduct. You just granted that the killing of Soleimani without Obama there would be core and immune.
Yeah.
No,
Now
I think it'd be immune. I don't think it'd be core.
How would it not be
Why
court?
would
Wait.
it not be core?
Who else could order that strike besides the executive?
I think that Congress could pass a law that says the president's not allowed to do drone strikes of that nature.
No, that's
I think
not what
that
we're
No, that's not what I'm asking. No, I'm asking
overlap.
who else could order. You keep trying to say that like a limitation on a thing is the same as directing a thing. It's not, right? The board can put restrictions on a CEO, but the board is not the CEO.
What? Core immunity is when the president has core and exclusive power.
Yes, that's what Stephen's asking you.
Congress could pass a law that says the president's not allowed to do drone strikes.
Wait,
I don't think it's a core and exclusive power. No.
Wait, could Congress pass a law saying the president can't deploy the military?
Fake electors?
Okay.
Wait. So could Congress pass a law that says that the president is not allowed to direct his DOJ about fake electors and to send fake letters in his communication with DOJ? Could they do that?
No.
Why not?
Probably not. Because I think prosecuting and investigating crimes is core and exclusive.
Why is that more core and exclusive than the president's role in commander in chief in conducting
The other lawyers,
wars?
do we pass a law against the use of
Oh my
chemical
God.
weapons?
Against what?
Against what?
The use of chemical weapons. It's a hypo. I don't know whether.
Well, we
what-
signed
I don't
into
know.
a
Nice pivot. The question is as
it's
pivot.
not
The
pivot.
question is as yes it
The
is.
use of a chemical weapon and the use of a drone is tightly analogous. If the Congress can outlaw one weapon, they can clearly outlaw the use of another weapon. Dude, calm the F down.
You were
You don't need
given
to be so hyper-intense about this.
no, because people who defend this ruling, I'm sorry to say, sicken me. It sickens me. It really does. This ruling is absolutely lawless, has no basis in
Hold on,
any
can I-
original
can I
foundation.
ask a question?
I do want to hold on. I do want to bring it. Hold on. Okay, I packed the panel, and that was obviously a decision of all time. Okay, let's get us back a little bit to the subject of court packing, because you made a statement about court packing, and I didn't get to hear any responses.
Wait, can we do this for like 5 more minutes? Because every time we get really close to solving this, the conservatives always dance like
Are
crazy.
you close to solving this? Do you think we're close?
Yes,
Because
because
we're
the dancing
making
here. Wait,
progress.
it's a really tight,
You're not
easy question.
conservative, right?
We all agree that the president is the only one that could order the military
You know
assassination.
I'm not conservative, right?
What?
No, I'm not conservative, right?
Oh, you vote? Do you support Trump in the upcoming election?
No.
Who do you
Who
support?
cares? The people who support this immunity
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
just you keep saying that all these conservatives. I'm not.
Oh, because
Listen, I got a question, and it relates to
regardless,
both
wait,
here.
hold
So-
on, wait. If the president is the only one that could do this, okay, and we agree that Congress probably can't order the specific use of a military, then how could you call into question any of the use of the military by the president, by the courts? How could it ever be a criminal investigation?
The question isn't whether Congress can give the order. The question is whether Congress has regulatory power in the area that's coextensive with the president or not. We don't have regulatory power over the pardon. That's why it's the easiest example.
Okay, wait. Do
But
they have
in
regulatory
areas like
power?
DOJ.
Wait, do they have regulatory power over the DOJ?
It's 1 to
They
1.
have regulatory. They do not have regulatory power about who the DOJ is.
Wait.
prosecuting and
wait.
Where does that come
Same
from? When Congress creates an office, isn't Congress the one who's in charge of figuring out like how the officer are appointed, or who needs the advice and consent of who, or what the president has? Like, the Congress could theoretically abolish the entire DOJ. So how are we saying that Congress has no power there?
Congress creates the law, and the president takes care to enforce the law.
We're not talking about
Right.
just. We're talking about an
Wait,
office,
wait.
a whole office here created by Congress.
So the Congress could eliminate the DOJ. They could eliminate the FBI, but they create the office, and within the office, the president has discretion.
Right. So Congress could eliminate, if it wanted to, the entire prosecutorial power of the president. Agree with that?
As a practical matter, probably, yeah.
Yes. Could Congress eliminate? Could Congress eliminate the military power of the commander in chief?
Technically, I mean, in the sense if you just completely defunded the military, so there is no military.
Yeah, I think probably.
So it's 1-to-1 no matter what, right? So how can you say, at best, right? Like I would even argue that the role as head of military, that's explicitly laid out, right? Congress could get rid of all federal criminal law. It says, hey, we're not in the business of federal criminal law anymore. I'm not so sure that Congress could eviscerate constitutionally the president's authority to conduct military affairs or to, if there were no calling forth act or militia act, that the president couldn't, using his constitutional office, just call forth militias. So again, I am not so certain that the congressional role over the military functions of the president is more than the DOJ. If anything, it would be the other way around. At the best for you guys, it's 1-to-1. And so how can you distinguish it?
I'm sure Destiny looked this up, but the Wartime Powers Act or resolution ostensibly requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of committing armed forces to military action and forbids armed forces from remaining for more than 60 days. I don't know whether that's constitutional, and there is a lot of debate over this, and to my knowledge, it's never been tested. But that is an example of Congress regulating expressly the president's commander-in-chief authority. So if that is constitutional, it's pretty clear that this is a coextensive power. Now, it might not be. We don't know the answer, but I don't think it's frivolous to say that this is a coextensive power. Certainly members of Congress have historically thought it was.
Then how could we ever think that the DOJ thing is an exclusive and non-coextensive? We're saying they can literally limit the war powers of the commander-in-chief of our military, but you're saying the DOJ and how he appoints officers and discusses things with them, that's untouchable when they could abolish that entire department?
Yeah, I think there's a very big difference between passing a law that says X is criminal and creating an agency to investigate crimes of that nature and saying, hey, Mr. President, you must investigate Stephen Bunnell for crimes.
No one is in the military. That is not you rejected the military hypothetical that Stephen gave on ordering the military to do something, and now you're trying to bring in that Congress order the prosecution of a particular person when you rejected that very same framework for the military context. So stop with that.
We're talking about, let me ask you a question.
Congress can declare war without the president's consent.
Okay. I'm throwing a flag on the play because you're just relitigating the same conversation you had, right? And we're not here.
It was a fun conversation. I pieced the word to keep your thoughts.
Beautiful.
I can upload it somewhere.
I understand.
Yeah, upload it. It was a fun conversation.
No, it was painful. I mean, it was painful because
it was painful because
we can absolutely.
I'm passing the ball to Lactoid. Lactoid. Pisco said, right, about court packing that it was.
Well, I didn't finish it. I didn't get to finish it because Stephen interrupted me.
Finish it. Finish it.
Yeah.
It.
So
I want to get into
So what people don't really care, though they should, about the number of justices. They should care about the number because the workloads, it's way too many cases, and we don't have enough justices just for administrative purposes. But people don't really care about the number of justices. What they care about is the partisan balance of the court. That's what people care about, whether it's 2-to-1 or 5-to-4 or 6-to-3 or whatever the number is. What they care about is the partisan balance. And what we're talking about here are violations of norms that affect because of illegitimate reasons, whatever you want to call those, that affect the partisan balance of the court. And so one has to wonder, why is it better for us to have a norm-shattering situation with Merrick Garland, which only requires not even the consent of both branches and presentment to the president, which a statute would require? Why is that better than just passing a statute expanding the number of seats on the court? If all of it's doing is enforcing or using the powers already given to the branches of government, then it's exactly 1-to-1. Yes, the Senate has the power to not have a vote on a particular candidate, and the Congress has the ability to expand the number of seats on the judicial court, on the Supreme Court. It's 1-to-1. They both have the power to do it. I would prefer a statute expanding a number of seats on the court, because at the very least you have bicameralism and presentment, than the unilateral decision by Mitch McConnell in a norm-shattering way to affect the partisan balance of the court. Anyone who says that it's preferable actually to have that norm-shattering unilateral decision by one person as opposed to a bicameral presentment and signature by the president, I think has lost the plot and what people really care about.
Okay.
So if they expanded the court and you gave all conservatives, you'd be okay with that?
Hold on. Before you go, I want to give it to Lactoid first. Then we're gonna let Zetsui. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. And then we're gonna go to Gibbs, and then we're gonna keep on going. So Lactoid, you can respond to that. Then Zetsui, then Gibbs. Go ahead.
Yeah. So earlier, Pisco, you told Ryan that anybody who defends the Trump immunity case sickens you.
Yeah.
But I think people who advocate for court packing, that sickens me. Okay.
Yeah.
Court packing will obliterate our third branch of government. It will completely obliterate the Supreme Court. You're going to have a tit for tat back and forth where every single election, every single president is going to put on 25, 30, 40, whatever sycophants that are going to do whatever they want. They're going to rule however they want. And the Constitution at that point is in the garbage. Now, when you're talking about the norm shattering, procedure, which I disagree with, by the way, but this norm shattering procedure that Joe Biden advocated for doing back in 1992. No, I think that there is a substantive difference between doing this and throwing the whole Supreme Court out with court packing, just like it would be. There's a difference between that norm and the norm of just ignoring the Supreme Court. Right. I remember I was on a panel with you and I said that if the Supreme Court orders, this was about immigration in Texas, if the Supreme Court orders you to do something, not doing it is treason, arguably, right? And Abbott needs to comply with the Supreme Court. I was very forceful in that, and I'm forceful about it now. And obeying the Supreme Court is an incredibly important norm, much more important than the thing that, again, Biden proposed in 1992 that
this was
Mitch
never
McConnell
a formal
did.
proposal. Please stop trying to pass this off on Biden. It's so cowardly. Oh, my God.
You're talking about Mitch McConnell being, it's unilateral. I mean, he was a majority leader for a reason, right? I mean, he was an elected representative, and they had a majority of that House. So it's not like, Mitch McConnell's just this fucking guy somewhere who just decided this.
I'm tracking everything you're saying, so let me respond. Okay. Number one, you agree that it is constitutional and legal for the Congress to expand the number of seats on the court? Yes or no?
Yes, I will. But I want to be very clear. Yes. I don't want to treat this like a fucking deposition. Okay. This yes or no bullshit. I mean, we're lawyers. We do it during depositions. This is a conversation, and you don't have to be so fucking aggressive about it. Okay.
I feel like this cuts.
No, I know. Well, no. Yeah, the point of a deposition. I did answer yes right away. Yeah. But just to be clear, right? The whole point of a deposition and what you do with this is to try to box somebody into a uncharitable position.
What I'm doing.
I know.
I am about to do that.
This is what we're taught to do in law school.
It's called biting the bullets. So yes, you agree that. Okay, then I'll just give you the natural extension of what you just said. All right.
Go ahead.
I'll say
yes or no. It's
you just okay, dude. You just agreed that it would be legal and constitutional for Congress to pass a statute expanding the number of seats on the court. Actually, I'd have to ask you a question. I don't want to say yes or no. Wouldn't it be unconstitutional to ignore the Supreme Court's ruling?
Yes.
Okay, so isn't that a basis to distinguish ignoring the court and expanding the number of seats on the court?
Not in effect, because you can accomplish the same effect and completely undermine the purpose of that branch by packing the court. If you had Kamala Harris just ignore the Supreme Court when they're saying, hey, you can't do that, like they're trying to do with the student loan shit, by the way. But, hey, you can't do that. Oh, no,
they're going back through the court. Why do you keep saying that?
Hold on.
Oh, my God.
But then, man, the Supreme Court keeps telling me, no, I can't do that. Well, I know what I'll do, right? I've got support in Congress to do this. I'm just going to flood them with 25, people off the street that are going to say yes to whatever I want.
Filibuster. So one thing that I care about, Lactoid, I don't know about you, is the Constitution. So when you say one of these proposals is constitutional and one's not, I think that's a pretty good basis to distinguish being okay with one and not the other. One violates the Constitution, one doesn't. I think that's a totally reasonable way to distinguish ignoring the court versus packing the court, which is absolutely within the constitutional purview of Congress and the president, happened multiple times in history. If you want to point to the multiple times in history, I guess you're just pointing to Joe Biden's, what he said, and maybe one other time 100 years ago.
What he vigorously argued for in 1992.
I'm going to interject here.
Wait. What was the 1992 thing again?
Joe Biden was arguing vigorously.
He wasn't arguing. Joe Biden made one statement as the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee saying that maybe we should consider doing something different about nominating Supreme Court picks during like heavy election season. It was a statement made. There was no serious thing pursued. And the equivalency that you're trying to draw here is fucking insane. Like, you stop going back to this because somebody in chat pointing out one thing to you and you're like, oh, I finally fucking got him now. And now conservatives can again take accountability for fucking nothing.
No. I think this is a great thing that was pointed out. By the way, I found this is from New York Times, right? As a senator more than 2 decades ago, Vice President Joseph R. Biden Jr. argued that President George Bush should delay filling a Supreme Court vacancy should one arise until the presidential election was over, and that it was essential that the Senate refuse to confirm a nominee to the court until then. He was arguing for this. He was arguing that it was essential. He was absolutely doing this.
Listen to what you just said. There wasn't even a vacancy.
Oh, no, look at you trying to avoid responsibility. Every single time, avoid responsibility. It's Republicans. Republicans are crazy. Trump's crazy. Yeah.
I'm happy to say Joe Biden has said some really dumb shit in his life. He has said some really wacky stuff. You were
fuckers elected him.
Wait, hang on a second, because he's, oh my God. That's not what this conversation is about. I'm surprised, like, Wick didn't just whack you just then for not being on topic.
Whoa, so you're telling me.
Oh, you're gonna lecture me on being on topic?
I'm joking.
Okay, fair enough.
So, Lactoid, you were just giving a point of distinction between not following the Supreme Court and packing the court with seats. That is, one would be constitutional and one would be unconstitutional. Isn't that a reasonable basis for me, a left-wing person, to distinguish those actions based on their underlying constitutionality? Isn't that reasonable?
When you can legally destroy the entire branch.
Yes or no? Is it reasonable?
First of all, I don't think it's reasonable when both lead to the same effect.
Where's the originalism? Where'd the originalism go?
The concern I have is the destruction of the Supreme Court.
I care about following the Constitution.
I want to hear what Destiny was trying to say. Destiny, go ahead.
No, to pretend that like Joe Biden, who mentioned this one time where there wasn't even a vacancy, when he proposed the idea that in election seasons maybe there shouldn't be a nomination, to pretend that this is the same as what McConnell did is delusional. It's not even, and every time he can offshore, like when the Democrats tried to violate the Constitution, like what they're trying to do with the student loan stuff, they're going to the Supreme Court for these things. What do you mean? And when the Supreme Court says no, then they don't do it. Like you're just trying to tag these things on the Democrats whenever you politically can do so, which is ridiculous.
And presidents do that all the time, by the way. Like, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
But didn't we agree earlier that what McConnell did was like suboptimal for the rule of law? Like,
I started off by saying this. We started this whole thing off. We all agreed. Yes, it'd be great. It'd be great to have an amendment that would prevent this from happening. But what I'm saying is that the argument being made from them is that these Republicans, these Republicans, right? They're saying it very angrily. These Republicans are so unprincipled. They're so horrible. They're so evil. They would even think to do this. They would even push to do this. When it's like, no, this is obviously a problem, and this is something that we should fix because we have the current Democrat president having advocated for this, right?
Okay, let's agree with this then.
Delay it.
Can we all agree then that nothing should change and it should carry on? But the next time a Republican president nominates somebody, the Senate should refuse to hear it just one time until it's even?
Why?
Okay.
Wait, why not?
We're all okay.
Because then we're even, right? We should all be okay with that, right?
Yeah, they don't agree.
The fact that hold on, just the fact that the Republicans don't immediately say yes, of course, shows the partisan hackery. That's it. It's all about partisan politics.
No,
which is what
let's
Pisco
talk
said
about
originally.
partisan.
That's it.
Hold on.
No, it's not about partisan hackery at all.
Why won't you grant it?
Hold on.
The reason why I won't grant is because on principle, I am against this being a maneuver. In the situation that I outlined to Destiny before of, let's say the Democrats do this, the Republicans 2 times over, I don't think this means that like the Republicans should get a freebie where they should be able to do this maneuver again in the future. Just like I don't think they should be able to pack the court. Just like I don't think that the Democrats should be able to pack the court.
No.
I think we need an amendment.
If the Dems wanted to impeach a Supreme Court justice, then just to get rid of Amy, or to make it fair again, would you be okay with that? Then and they're like, okay, cool, we're good, we're chill now. Since that was a really bad decision before, we should be able to impeach him.
I'll make a concession. If you listen. So the last time we had any of this court packing come up was with what FDR with the Reform Bill of 1937, right? Okay, what did FDR also do? He basically waited it out, got a Supreme Court justice in through attrition, and then what happened? World War II. What happened then? The internment camps. I will agree that we should get rid of the presidential immunity, and we can agree to your other stuff. If you'll agree that we should go and prosecute FDR and all his family for the crimes they committed.
What are you
to the
talking
Japanese
about? So
people. Because it's I mean, he's criminal. He's not
I
criminally
agree.
immune.
We should prosecute
So, like,
RFK. Yes, let's do it. We'll go after all the Kennedys. I'm okay with that. Yeah,
Sure.
let's go.
by the way,
I'm just saying that's what they'll sound like right now. I mean, like
So-
it sounds crazy as fuck.
I'm
but
sure we
that's
do
what
sound that way to you. Yes.
by the way, your position
exactly.
your position would literally be that if the president of the United States ordered like a concentration camp on the same basis of the Japanese internment camps in Korematsu, and not only was it a concentration camp, literally started killing people as a military exigency, that he should be criminally immune. That's your position, by the way. Yeah, that's your position, by the way. So
If you assigned to people.
Well, and yet the Dims are the ones who
that's
let people
your
talk
position.
again.
Okay,
Threats
let's
of
get
court
the mic
packing-
to Zetsway. Let's get the mic to Zetsway.
Can I say one last thing? Threats of
one
court
last-
packing got us Korematsu, just to be clear. But go ahead.
Zetsway, go ahead.
So
True.
the core packing thing, the thing is that one, I agree that if they blocked a pick, the thing is that would be a method by trying to get something through. One, I believe it was already unconstitutional for them to not do it. The question is, what the fuck do you want us to do about it? And the answer is, I'm sorry, you should have brought it to the Supreme Court. There's plenty of things you could have done, but you didn't do them. And the idea that goes, I therefore destroy everything. You're right. You could pack the court.
Go to the
In same
Supreme
sense-
Court to regulate their own Supreme Court pick for the validity of the.
Wait a second. So you agree that it was unconstitutional
Yes.
for the Senate not to give an up or down vote on a
Yes.
nominee? Given that it was unconstitutional, how could you possibly say that action, which was unconstitutional, is better or less problematic than doing something that's constitutional? That is,
No.
no, we're gonna get an answer to this. How is
I'm gonna give
doing
you
something?
the answer.
No, sorry, we're gonna. I need to get an answer to this. He just said that it would be unconstitutional for the Senate not to give that vote. However, you must agree, Zetsu, that it's constitutional to expand the court. Explain to me
Yes.
why doing something that's unconstitutional with respect to the court is not destroying the court, but doing something that's constitutional is destroying the court.
Okay,
Explain
Zetsway,
that.
I'll give you a chance to answer, but if you
Sure.
don't give the right answer, I'm going to give them the right answer. There's a right answer to this, but go ahead,
Oh
Zetsway.
shit.
Okay, no. So one, it is. So no, I don't think it was constitutional. However, I'm not the one who gets to fucking decide that. They decided apparently it was constitutional, and I accept the fact that
I'm
lose.
asking you.
I know. I just said it wasn't. You're saying yes. Just because something's unconstitutional doesn't mean it's automatically worse than something that is constitutional. I don't know where does that
Weird.
dichotomy come
That's
in.
the answer, because
Weird.
we don't decide what we want to happen, right? Morality is upstream of laws. Like, just because something is constitutional or unconstitutional doesn't make it right or wrong. If
Yeah.
something is constitutional and allowed by constitutional, it could still be horrific and bad. Whereas
Wait.
something might be unconstitutional, but in certain circumstances, it might be something like, okay, there are certain circumstances it's not necessarily
So I don't want to
wrong.
hear about structuralism
Well,
anymore.
Constitutional
Basically,
or
I have to. No.
unconstitutional does not matter to the morality of the thing.
Pisco, do you agree that it would be constitutional for them to amend back in slavery? It would be
Yes,
they can do it.
yes, it would be
So
constitutional.
do you think you would prefer they do that than not do Garland? So if you could go, I get Garland, but we bring slavery
I don't
back.
support slavery. I don't support
Hold on.
slavery.
No, wait. There's an
And I
important way to
wouldn't-
answer that question. Hold on. The answer is
Yeah, make Pisco answer this.
Well, I absolutely will answer this. Do you think I'm scared of your
You agree
dumbass
with that.
questions? Wait, so I'm not scared of your questions at all. But you guys are making a
I don't think
structural. You guys are making a structural argument that it will destroy the institution of the court. That is not, as I understand it, a morality argument. If it's just open, morality is on the table, then now we can talk about results. Now we can talk about realism. Now we can talk about the immunity decision. You've opened up Pandora's box to talk about any result that we want. But if you're specifically talking about the structure, the integrity, the lawfulness, you're destroying norms, then absolutely the Constitution looms large over all of those. They are the upstream of what we consider to be our norms, our structures, our integrities. So no, your entire line of questioning is fucking stupid because your argumentation is based on integrity, structure of our systems.
What do you?
Wait, Zetsu, add a yes or no very aggressively in there to make sure he answers.
Hold
Go
on,
ahead.
wait. The answer would be yes. You would support a system that would allow you to add slavery back in, if that's what the values of the society represented. Because if you had a system where you couldn't put slavery back in, then that means we would have existed in a system where slavery could have never been removed. You respect the process, okay? The process
said
should also respect our values, right?
No,
That wasn't the question.
Stephen, whoa. That's what the rights are for.
The question-
The whole point of rights is to protect things against what the majority wants. That's why they're
I don't
there.
know what. I have no
How
idea
is that
who you're even
responsive at
talking
all?
to. You agree right now that we could create anything we wanted to in this country. We could make laws if through the process of constitutional amendment, you could create laws that have the infinite torture of every single person in this country. Correct?
With a constitutional amendment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So we can amend our constitution
As a
infinitely. Yes.
If we're going to ignore all practicality, then sure.
I don't know why you would have to ignore
This isn't
anything.
the question.
Because you couldn't pass a constitutional amendment for Taco Tuesday, let alone the infinite torture of every
Right.
human being.
Wait, why could
It's
you
I
not
don't know
just
why you're
a
in this realism world. It is so
there's that,
obnoxious.
and even
Let's
the
leave the real world.
even the peaceful question.
Yeah, isn't the whole
reason
debate
why
over like
this
realistic
thing goes to
solutions?
court is because there's a 0% chance that any court of which I am familiar would have actually ruled on whether what Mitch McConnell did was constitutional or not. They would have said political question and they would have punted 100%, because that's what courts do when they're asked to evaluate.
I absolutely
Right.
I don't have to agree, and I don't agree the notion that this is just a justiciable question. I don't think it's a justiciable question. I don't think courts can resolve it, but that doesn't mean that I don't still think it's unconstitutional. And Zetsu's, I commend him for being brave, because yes, the courts are not the only ones who interpret the Constitution, as we all understand. The question isn't whether or not courts can hear the question, whether or not it's just justiciable. The question is, how can Zetsu, or maybe even some of you, I don't know if you bought it, say that one process is unconstitutional but wouldn't destroy the structure of the court, but another is plainly constitutional? It's part of the Madisonian Compromise, among other things. That's not the Madisonian Compromise, but you understand what I'm saying. It's part of the compromise of the founding of the country. But that use of that power would be ruinous. I mean, how could you possibly say
Those aren't the
that
definite
blatant
words I'm saying.
violation? What's that?
I'm saying
Sorry?
that, so it was about severity. That's why. So the reason I said the whole slavery thing was saying it's about severity. That if you do something unconstitutional that's less severe, it's not, then yeah, I'd be like, okay, that's bad and I think it's unconstitutional. But if you go, okay, here's something constitutional, like I said, like reenacting, bringing back slavery, I would be far more against that, even though it's technically constitutional, but the severity, the destruction to our country.
So let's
is far
talk
more
about the severity. So let's talk about severity. One breach of norm results in a permanent conservative majority on the Supreme Court. For again, this breaking of norm, or pseudo permanent, effectively in the near midterm to long term, the court.
So
is
temporary.
Hang on a second. All right, yes. Sorry, I was wrong.
Permanent, but only for like a short period of time. Yeah, okay.
You're correct. Wait, I just want to say you're correct. That was wrong. I was incorrect. In the medium term, it will cement a conservative majority on the court. Okay. Fair enough. So that is the situation we live in right now. If you want to talk about results, the other alternative system is at the very least 50-50, right? You switch back and forth, as opposed to what you want, which is whoever does the first norm violation, they win. And I'll ask very up front, Lactoid and anyone else who supports this, if the opportunity were given to Democrats to do the same thing Mitch McConnell did, would you be okay with them doing that? Given that Mitch McConnell has already done that, Lactoid.
Yes.
I've already answered your question. I said no, but I specified very specifically because for me, by the way, somebody who didn't vote Trump last two elections, right? For me,
I don't care.
This is very much, well, hold on, because I'm just letting you know that like I'm outside of like your partisan soup that you.
I didn't put you in a partisan lens.
Well, you're asking me the same question twice, right? And so I'm just being very clear here. For me, it is a principle thing, right? This happened once, and I have problems with it. I said this whole time that I got problems with it, and I'm not okay with that happening again. And I'd be perfectly supportive of an amendment that would prevent that from happening again and limit the justice.
So here's the follow-up. Here's a follow-up, Black Twid. If the Republicans have that situation, they do it again. After that, would you be okay with the Democrats doing it?
No. If the Democrats,
I'm going to get the next follow-up.
No. I'm going to respond. I'm going to respond. If the Republicans don't get a chance to do it again, and the Democrats do it the next 5 billion times, okay, we're all going to be dead by then. Okay, maybe the next 100 times. Yeah, 100 times.
So you
this
is masochism.
Why is it masochism? If you think that an action is wrong, right? So, for example, I think stabbing look, I'm going to hold on, stop. This is my panel. I'm going to fucking put my foot down here because I want to get this out. Okay? If you think stabbing kids is wrong, right? And your kid gets stabbed, that's bad, right? He gets stabbed twice. That's also bad. Do we think that as a tit for tat, as, okay, well, he stabbed your kid, so I guess we're going to let him stab your kid now, right?
I'm happy to answer that, Wick. I understand your point. So,
right?
Wick, I'm happy to address your point. I agree generally that just, he did it, therefore, what's the good in that? If there are some things that are, like, clearly immoral, if you want to say, threshold, the intolerant, whatever the thing is. I don't disagree with that foundation. But hang on. The whole value of this norm that Lactoid is espousing is that it's a norm. The whole purpose of the whole value of having this, like, we're not going to break up the court, like we shouldn't do this, is to preserve what? Preserve the integrity of the Supreme Court. But I'm giving a situation to Lactoid, a literally infinite. Wait, let me finish, please.
In order to do something else, that's not the end goal here.
Hang on a second. The value that is being espoused by these people is that violating this norm of not giving a hearing and not giving a vote would disturb the integrity of the court. That's why they are principally standing against those actions. But I'm giving the different scenario to Lactoid, where imagine that you have this infinite regress of Republicans doing it all the time. At that point, surely whatever value of that quote unquote norm in establishing whatever the court has been totally lost.
Yeah,
how can you not agree to that?
Wick, can I ask you a question? Wick, let's say that, two wrongs don't make a right, okay? The issue with the stabbing thing is that, one, it's hard to imagine how that benefits you. And then two, it's hard to imagine how allowing somebody... Stop. It's hard to imagine how somebody stabbing somebody else is allowing you to redress your grievance, okay? Here's a question. Let's say that you're playing soccer, okay, between two teams. Let's say that one team has a guy tackle a dude right before somebody goes and kicks a goal, and then they score a goal, right? And now the question is, okay, well, hold on. Should this team be allowed to tackle their goalie when they go to kick their next goal, or do you just deal with the fact that now the score is 1-0 and you play the rest of the game like that?
So here's the deal.
No, answer that question. I need you to answer that question. Oh, sorry. My bad. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I can answer the question. The question is, and this is going to be annoying, but I gotta have to ask a question in response to see how I can answer this. Destiny, right? Do you think that the sports analogy is way outside of my
it fits perfectly. It's a 1-to-1 fit. The score is now up 1-0 because they got a little cheat. Should you be allowed to do a little cheat in the same way to even the score, or do you just deal with being down in points?
Do we want to normalize that as a thing that happens not only in this game, but in all games going forward? Because I think that there is value in saying, hey, this was bad. It needs to be penalized. We can redress this.
If you want to go very meta, I would argue. Hold on, wait. If you want to go
doing it as well,
if you want to
prevent us from
if you want to go very meta, no, that's not true. If you want to go very meta, then the answer is you allow them to take revenge, because that's exactly what prevents that type of behavior going forward. The issue with the Republicans is they've been allowed to operate outside of the Constitution with impunity forever. So if somebody thinks, I'm literally explaining it right now. If somebody thinks that they can operate, we got a free Supreme Court pick, that's fucking awesome. Then the next norm violation, whatever they want to fucking do, they know that at that point they're going to have to say, the Democrats are just going to do what's right, so we can fuck them over here and still get our huge edge, and then, we can't do two wrongs make a right. They'll continue to fuck around in the future. So if anything, I think that having the comeuppance, having the redressing of the grievance would prevent those types of things coming forward in the future, because people know, if we fuck around, the other side's going to get theirs, and then we're going to be all fucked. So if anything, I think it would help.
That hasn't worked out, has it? Because what happens is it's a race to the bottom, where each side is just saying, well, they did it, so now we can too.
That's like saying That's like saying
Harry Reid, if you do this,
Harry Reid's is not the same. It's not the same. This is like saying it's a race to the bottom.
Pack the courts. If they do this, right?
This is like saying it's a race. This is like saying it's a race to the bottom with an anchor and a boat. Okay? Yes, both of them are racing to the bottom, but one side is clearly in the fucking wrong here. Harry Reid's suggestion was nowhere near on par with what McConnell ended up doing. It's not even close.
Suggestion? He didn't make a Harry Reid.
When they did it to start getting Supreme Court, it was because the Republicans refused to fucking to actually hear the nominations.
It was the exact same thing they did with Garland.
Yes,
it was the exact same thing. Wait, and here's the ultimate killer question that Lactoid. I hope you're ready for this one. If the Democrats packed the courts,
is it yes or no?
If the Democrats packed the courts, would you be in favor of the Republicans next time they had control packing the courts as well?
No. And I would very strongly, principally argue that we need a limit. We got to cap it at 9. We got to fucking do it. Absolutely.
Bullshit. I do not believe
Here's what happens. Here's what happens.
Democrats put on
No.
Supreme Court justices.
This is what fucking happens.
Do not pass a law for the Republicans to do their 100.
No.
Don't believe you.
This is what happens. Like, Pisco gets really angry and demands you answer yes or no question. And then you answer directly, immediately, I don't believe you. Well, fuck you then. I believe me. Like, what do you want me to say? What response do I have to that?
Also, as a quick thing, at home, okay? You said earlier that you aren't a conservative and you don't belong to his partisan political soup. Like, you have 3 retweets in a row of fucking Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, and End Wokeness. The idea that you're like beyond this political partisanry.
To be clear,
oh my God.
Let me elaborate. Let me elaborate.
Policing?
Let me elaborate, because I mean they love tweeting. I get it. Let me elaborate. The last 2 times I did vote on the Libertarian Party, the past 2 elections, that's what I said. I don't swim in the partisan soup. With Kamala Harris being the nominee and Joe Biden being the prior nominee and the whole situation around that, I am definitely leaning more Trump this time around, for sure. I'm not going to deny that. Like this time around, I'm leaning more Trump.
On what basis?
Like but this is due to like a number of circumstances that's leading up to this. It's not like
on what basis?
Every
on
single
what basis
election.
Do you prefer? When you
the
talk about
next
the
election, if you guys put up somebody else, like the Democrats put up somebody else, I might vote for them. I don't fucking know.
What constitutional? What part of it are you? Do you think a Trump presidency would respect for the United States versus a Democrat presidency?
Oh shit! I mean, we can get into like this is like a very long conversation.
Steven,
This is a very open-ended question.
I'm just curious. Hold on, wait. I'm just curious. Where we're crying so much. And what about Trump saying he would terminate the Constitution over and over and over again?
Hold on. That specific statement, I absolutely disagreed with that, and I've disagreed with that multiple times. But what Trump isn't doing is he's not threatening to pack the court. He's repeatedly said he wouldn't do that.
He's threatening to kill the Constitution.
And he's selecting justices off of the Federalist Society shortlist. Now, the Federalist Society is a very
don't care filibuster. He's threatening to destroy the Constitution. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are already in right now. They haven't packed the courts. So why would you? Donald Trump has gone after constitutional things. Like, why would you assume that?
Hold on. So there's
it's more than one. Hold on. It's more than one factor. But then when I'm outlining the multiple factors, you accuse me of filibuster.
Well, sure, but on this one factor, you're completely dead wrong. You have you're out to sea.
No, this is one factor of many, by the way.
Yes, the Democrats are superior in. They're superior to the Biden was there for 4 years. Where's the court packing? Where's the court packing?
Blackwood, answer directly, because there is a point here. If Biden and Kamala wanted to pack the courts, why haven't they done it already?
Well, that's what I want to get at.
I think
let's let Lactoid answer first.
Yes.
I see you, Gibbs. Don't worry.
Thankfully, there are political obstacles and in place that have prevented that from happening thus far. But I think it's interesting how this argument is exactly what Destiny will argue against when conservatives say, well, Trump, when it comes to the January 6th stuff, right? Well, obviously it didn't work. Oh, but then, isn't the risk itself a concern? And I would agree, the risk itself is a concern, just like the risk of Kamala Harris threatening to pack the court. That's a concern too.
Absolutely.
Now, there's many other factors.
To address that thing very particularly, it's not for lack of trying, though. There's a respect for the process on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, why isn't Pence running with Trump? Because Trump has no respect for the process. Why doesn't he put Barr up again? Where's the rest of his old cabinet? Trump is making concrete changes to the composition of his cabinet because he wants to be able to do those things going forward. And any good faith actor knows that.
Why does Kamala have a 92% turnover rate then?
Yeah.
So, that's a terrible argument.
Just to be clear, I understand that you think that the January 6th issue.
No one's talking about J6 right now.
I know. Well, I'm being clear. I know. Yeah, I know you brought up Mike Pence. This is why I'm bringing this up. So
he's the vice
I know that you think that's a bigger issue.
He was more than one day of vice presidency. He was a vice president the entire term.
I know you think that this issue is bigger than the court packing one, and reasonable minds can disagree. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to court packing specifically, Donald Trump is better than Kamala Harris on that issue. When it comes to selecting justices, Trump is better than Kamala Harris on that issue.
But here's what I don't understand. Wait, Lactoid. Here's what I don't understand then. If this is such a big threat that you are going to have it overrule the notion that Trump is a threat and is going to suspend the Constitution, why wouldn't you be in favor of undoing it if the Democrats were made good on their plan? If the Democrats put in 1,000 Supreme Court justices, and in your mind that would destroy the integrity of the Supreme Court, why wouldn't you be in favor of a tit for tat?
We're fucked anyway. So that
No. Just to be clear, if you give me a gun to my head, 1 to 2 options, and I have to pick one, I would. As opposed to packing the court, or I guess giving the Dems an ability to skip a Republican pick, I would absolutely pick the latter, right? I would disagree with both.
What I'm asking,
I would disagree with both, but I think it's interesting now how that's the one you guys are proposing. When initially you were super in favor of packing the court. You came in here saying that.
100%. Wait. 100%. I am. I am.
That is disgusting for a lawyer to say.
No. I 100%. I am, and I absolutely will defend that to my dying breath. But the question specifically I'm asking you is, if a Democratic Congress and Kamala Harris, if they put in 1,000 Supreme Court justices, would you be in favor, if Republicans retake Congress and the presidency, to undo that by either removing those seats or adding their own seats?
So again, a question that I've already answered, no, but I would want them immediately, and I would vote for them to do this if such a situation happened. I would want for them to immediately put a constitutional amendment in place, capping it at whatever it is. Yes.
Okay, so then for a generation, you have 1,000 Democrat justices who can essentially ruin
you should ask me it again, and maybe I'll answer differently.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
Why don't you
and
believe
anyone? Because anyone who respects and values the integrity of the court, such that they believe Kamala is an existential threat because of the packing issue, to say that is such a high value for you, and that you're going to vote for Trump, someone's going to suspend the Constitution. How could you not be also in favor of undoing the damage done by either removing the seats of everybody who's been offered a position under the Dem?
I think I can.
Yeah, that's the answer, right?
Lactoid? Well, so Lactoid, what do you think is more likely, that Trump's going to suspend the Constitution, or that Kamala is going to pack the court?
I think it's more likely that Kamala will pack the court than Trump is to suspend the Constitution.
So that's why he goes, and you go, what are the odds? So you go, well, no, percentage times value. So if you go, suspending the Constitution is 1 million, but you think it's 0, then the end result is 0. If you think it's 50 for Kamala Harris and it's 500, then it's...
So we've got JFK. JFK failed to pack the court, and Kamala and Biden. I think Biden, when he came into office, I think he literally said he wasn't going to pack the court. I don't think Biden. I think he completely backed away from any idea of packing the court. I think he explicitly said he wouldn't. And Kamala Harris, I don't think is going to pack the court. Yeah. No, however, there have been key provisions for how we understand constitutional stuff that has changed under Donald Trump. So the idea that one is more likely than the other doesn't make any sense. But
the executive branch is stronger. The executive branch has vigor. The executive branch has a military. I have people to say that you're more scared, right, of the decisions from on high from a Democrat judiciary. I mean, that's insane. We absolutely have more to fear from an executive run amok than a judiciary run amok. And the proof is in the pudding. I believe both Stephen and I think that this judiciary, this Supreme Court, has run amok, and that the recent decisions are absolutely,
Wait, so they're more powerful than the executive right now?
All of them?
No. We should be more scared of an executive run amok than a judiciary run amok.
That is correct.
However, if the claim is that the judiciary currently is running amok and running roughshod over the executive, so they need to be reined in, why?
Wait. The issue. Wait. If a judge tells you that he wants to kill you, then fuck him. Walk out. Who cares? If a police officer shows up and he says he wants to kill you, you're dead. That's the difference. The executive run amok with unchecked power is very scary. A judiciary unchecked is also scary, but the executive, we have evidence of Donald Trump doing all the things that conservatives pretend that Democrats are going to do, of asking his DOJ, going on to Fox News and saying the DOJ needs to be indicting people, of trying to pressure people like Jeff Sessions to do indictments, or to stop accusing themselves, or to influence every single thing, every hypothetical thing a conservative is worried about a Democrat doing. The Republicans have already done it. But for some reason, they're not worried about him continuing to do it with even more sycophantic administrators, right? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, other than partisan hackery.
But for some reason, you're more afraid of the court packing, which is is it going to happen? So then, how is it possible that Donald Trump's actually doing all this shit now, but somehow you're more afraid of Kamala Harris?
Who are you directing your comment towards? That too? Who's that too?
Well, no. So I would say just reiterating Destiny's position and a little less aggressive.
Okay. I don't think it makes any sense, and I don't think that Wick's question makes any sense, or shows any contradiction.
Not make sense. Right?
Yeah. So you ask wait, isn't it your position that executive run amok is more dangerous than a judiciary run amok? And then you pointed to the fact that I happen to believe that the judiciary is run amok right now. Yes, I do. And if I were to ask Stephen right now, Stephen, would you rather have this Supreme Court for the next 10 years or another Trump presidency? Which would you choose?
This Supreme Court.
Of course. And the answer is obvious, because as bad as this Supreme Court is, and in our opinion, it is very, very bad, our fears of a Trump presidency are fundamentally existential, because Trump undoubtedly has power in the moment to enact force against his rivals. And this time he is going to be unburdened by what has been.
So you think, what are the odds? Let's put odds on this. If Trump is elected, and I hope to God he's not, because I too think there is
lose a lot of money if he does.
Right? If he does get elected, what are the odds, you think? How much money would you put on him destroying America, of there being this fascist takeover, of him destroying the Constitution? What would be your odds on that?
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, someone says destroy America, to me, my version of destroy America would be significantly, undermine the structural foundations of our Constitution. And for example, I would say that court packing
Like
wouldn't
court
fulfill
packing?
that, right?
You don't
And
think court packing just...
Court
okay.
packing-
100% no. 100% no. If you look at the foundation of this country, one of the, look back to Marbury versus Madison. People forget what was at issue in that case and what the court was teeing up. It was the repeal of the Midnight Judges Act by John Adams. These fights over the judiciary, they're long-standing, right? You look at Israel right now. They're having these big problems about the jurisdiction of courts. Congress has the power, if it wants to, explicitly by the Constitution, to make exceptions to the Supreme Court's appellate review. There's tons of control. Congress could limit all the funding to the Supreme Court. There are norms that sort of protect us and guide us. But what we're talking about here, when the President of the United States is engaged in a conspiracy to stop the peaceful transfer of power, that is not in any place envisioned by the Constitution. So once again, just like the previous example when we were comparing the unconstitutional act in Zetsu's mind of the non-giving of a hearing and the non-giving of a vote to the constitutional act of expanding the court, we're comparing apples and oranges here. All the powers that Congress has over the Supreme Court, they are explicit in our Constitution, and you're acting like using it would be greater threat to our system than a president literally stopping the transfer of power. It's insane.
Yeah. It's the difference between can and should. I don't think you can do that. That it's unconstitutional what they did. And the thing is, in terms of saying like you could pack the court, I'm not saying that you can't do it or to be unconstitutional. If you did it, the thing is, what if you lose? So if the court packing happens, but it's conservatives, are you still 2 thumbs up?
Yeah,
with it?
The court has already been packed, my friend.
Yeah,
you just didn't realize it.
I think the issue is I don't think we necessarily are opposed to the idea of packing the court. It's the idea of packing the court for a partisan manner, right? Like if somebody were to say that, let's say theoretically you expanded the court to 22 judges or whatever. How many circuits do we have? 11 or 13 or whatever. So that there's so that we have enough Supreme Court judges to like ride circuit and be more active in court cases or deal with a bigger load, but we guaranteed that the partisanship of the court would remain the same. I think after arguing through all the autistic shit that people would bring up because they think I'm trying to prove a point, I think most people are like, okay, it's probably okay to expand the court in this circumstance. The issue with the expansion of the court is doing it in a hyper-partisan manner, which I do agree principally is bad, but the issue, and this is somehow conservatives are always able to fucking do this, okay? Like a conservative will have their dick in your ass telling you, okay, that it's okay, we're not, yeah, exactly. That like, okay, we need to stop the ass fucking right now, okay? While they're knotted in you, filling your rectum would come. That's the issue. That's the issue.
This is
the issue is that the damage, the issue is that the damage has already been done and it's still happening 100%. And it will continue on for decades, but conservatives want to pretend like they don't have their dick in your ass.
No, this is cope because this is what happens, right? So the Dems get so mad whenever we use their own tactics against them. Biden, we've already talked about this a million times, have already pointed out, hey, this is what we're going to do. He used it as a threat to George Bush Sr., right?
No,
he was like, hey, we can do this. This is going to thing. That was what he put forth. If you go read the whole thing, he put forth, it's a threat. The times have changed because it was hypothetical because we didn't have somebody, right? This is what his idea. McConnell does it successfully. And then lo and behold, now here we are going, oh, we got outplayed, not maneuvered with our own rule. Let's change the rules.
Yeah, so you're going to get outplayed if we have Congress.
What's going to happen? Hold on, what's going to happen? This is why I actually want this question answered. What are y'all going to do whenever y'all put forth these new rules and the Republicans outplay y'all again? Are you going to flip the table and cry home to mama again? Or what's going to happen? Like,
I love this. It's a really good point because what Gibbs has just shown is that this is just a matter of power politics.
It's a game.
That's
exactly what it is.
Agree. And so all you're saying right here is, yeah, they could have done it and they did do it and haha, you lose. That was the absolute mentality of Mitch McConnell.
It's a skill issue.
And for all the originalists here, it's more constitutional to pack the court than it is for the Senate to not confirm a presidential pick, right? Do we agree with that? That would be more. It would be more adherent to the Constitution to pack the court than it was for what McConnell did under the Senate, right?
Yes,
does every constitutionalist here admit that? Every originalist here.
There's no question that you're allowed to pack the court.
We're not saying what you can do.
Okay, wait. So Lactoid admits that, right? It would be more constitutional to pack the court than what McConnell did, right?
And to abdicate your role.
I don't think the
Whether you can or
I
not.
want
I want to hear the
Lactoid.
nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear the nonpartisan libertarian here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And this is just, I guess, a gap in my knowledge because I'm opposed to this particular to what Mitch McConnell did to begin with. I'm not convinced right now. I'm not convinced that that's unconstitutional. So we can talk about it later. I'm open to be convinced on that for sure. But I'm not convinced on that point yet.
Is packing the court constitutional?
Well, packing the court is constitutional.
Okay, wait. So then you already ceded it because you already admitted that you could be convinced on the Senate thing. So it's already
But just to be clear, like this was already gone through, right? Like I agree with the analysis here of yes, things that are unconstitutional are bad, but things that destroy the republic are also bad. And obliterating the third branch of government is really bad.
No,
and the people who
what
threaten
happened to the
to
originalism?
obliterate the third branch of
what
government
happened to the
is
textual
really, really
originalism?
bad.
Are we saying now that that needs to go by the wayside when we're making decisions of protecting the democracy, the republic?
Can.
No, hold on, wait. I'm not talking to you,
Originalism is a judicial philosophy.
Yeah, well, so hold on. So then, if we're
goalposts are all over the place.
Well, no. If we're originalists and we believe in the Constitution as written and we should adhere as strictly to the original interpretation of it as possible, then we would agree then that packing the court is obviously like supremely better. It's a different category of things than what the Senate has done.
No. Hold on, wait. Let me just explain the difference here. This is the misunderstanding, okay? So when we're talking about originalism, we're talking about a judicial philosophy. Me saying that packing the court is legal, and I'm open to be convinced, like I'll go through it. Let's just roll that it is unconstitutional to do what Mitch McConnell did, and that's shown to me, and legally I will agree with it. This is me exercising originalism because I'm coming to the answers based on the law, right? But politically, originalism isn't like a political persuasion. Like politically speaking, like I don't want to destroy the Supreme Court of America, even if you could do it legally. In the same way that it'd be perfectly legal if we pass an amendment allowing mass genocide of Americans or slavery or whatever. I'd be very, very strongly politically opposed to that. In fact, I would dedicate more political resources to oppose that than I would something that's like unconstitutional but of minor effect.
Let's explore that. So why is it worse?
It's unconstitutional. It's like we know court packing is within the powers in the Constitution. There's no question about that. The question is, how do we get to a point where we are moving towards increasing respect for the rule of law, increasing view of legitimacy, increasing perception?
It's at an all-time low, Ryan.
Just hold on, Pisco. Does court packing give people more confidence in the court or less?
I'm not sure what their opinions will be. I just know that I'm telling you, as a matter of fact, that the Supreme Court's. I'm telling you, I do not have the information sufficient to make a conclusion about whether court. Hang on a second. Hang on. I am answering you honestly. What I am telling you right now is that the opinion of the legitimacy of the Supreme Court has never been lower. That's what I'm telling you right now. And
that's
so
true
for all of you to ignore that fact and to pretend. What do you want to say, Ryan? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the point that we're making is that there's been a series of changes, and these are little procedural things that happen typically in the Senate, because the Senate's the branch that kind of keeps decorum, where they got rid of the 60 vote threshold for nominating of lower court judges. Then they got rid of it for Supreme Court judges. Then McConnell played his maneuver. And what you're seeing is these little procedural changes, and what they're doing is they're ticking away at the process that used to force the Senate to come to some sort of joint resolution, because you couldn't get someone nominated if they were too extreme, because you needed to hit a 60 vote threshold.
Nice speech, Professor.
Things have
Let's get to the point.
Worse. Things are getting worse.
Listen, I know you're not complaining about length of time.
It gets worse. So the question is, do we think you should pack the court? No, because it will make the legitimacy of the court worse.
Hey, listen, hold on. I tell you, you've been since you got in here.
The court worse. It's not that fucking complicated.
So the question is, what is the norm?
Holy Jesus! And how it feels? You like the way I did that there.
What is the norm to break when it's already been shattered? Right? Is there a norm that we should care about? If right now the Republicans under McConnell, absolutely everyone here would agree that it was a significantly damaging thing that McConnell did with respect to the non-vote and then the voting of Amy Coney Barrett.
Things can always get worse.
Everyone agrees on this.
Things can always get worse. This is hold on. This is something. Hold on. Oh my God! You guys keep talking over me. I don't know why you do, but this is the mistake that a lot of people who are one-issue voters on Gaza make. That it's already a genocide. It can't possibly get worse. No. Everything can always get worse, motherfuckers. And I think that as bad as it is, because you are correct, trust in institutions across the board, not just SCOTUS, right? But the military, even though there's still a majority of support to it, it's the lowest it's ever been, right? In every single institution we have in America that I'm aware of, academia, science.
Why?
Right?
Why do you think that's
all these
happening?
things.
Why do you think that's happening?
Because I think that
it's because conservatives are. You literally have a president. You have a president or an ex-president who's running who doesn't even believe in the results of the last election. Conservatives have nobody to blame but themselves.
Bro, are you kidding me? We have a president right now that keeps telling us the economy's good. Inflation's at an all-time high. We have all this other shit going on. Like you go to the grocery store and you can just tell that the Democrats are lying to you. And you want to say it's the Republicans' fault? Like, you got to be damn near retarded. Like, I'm just saying.
The trust can always get worse. Now, why is it the case that people don't trust it? There's plenty of reasons, right? I think Republicans are to blame for this, but also the fact that many of the institutions have, at least the public feels, have failed.
No, stop. Why does the public feel that way? The public feels that way because the Republicans tell them that over and over and over and over again. Where do the ideas, and you can see this play out in lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. It's not the same on the left and the right. Why do people feel the way that they do on the right? Why the fuck I'm watching Shane Gillis joke about how his dad in Pennsylvania thinks that, like, immigration is the most important fucking issue in the country, right? How the fuck are people thinking that, that criminals and spies and terrorists are coming into the southern border? You've got Donald Trump inventing, what was it, the Boulder shooting or whatever? What did he say when the press secretary just made up a fucking massacre that didn't even happen? The idea that Republicans are naturally coming to these ideas that the country is fucked, when Republicans are saying it over and over and over and over and over again, that's not just a feeling that the people have. It's one that's being carefully crafted so that partisan fucks can come onto panels like these and go, oh, well, look, the American public's not happy. We got to do something. Yeah, that's intentional. It's an intentionally crafted feeling.
Just to be clear, Wick, I mean, you just said things can always get worse. I mean, yes. Undoubtedly, I'm not denying that. But here's the principle, and I think that you even agreed with Lactoid.
And to be clear,
if the Republicans,
that's why I'm against court packing, because it would make things worse.
Okay, that could be your belief. I happen to think that there was already court packing. Just to be clear, so take the following example. Take the following example. So. Lactoid was given the option, or the situation where
it was the Bowling Green massacre.
All of a sudden, court backed a bunch of things, and he was true to his guns and principle and said, "I would be against a reversal of that." My question for you, Wick, is: do you really agree with that? Like, if the Democrats or the Republicans, let's say, completely court pack. Let's say the Republicans give 1,000 Supreme Court justices after all that's happened. Wick, would you agree with Lactoid that you would say Democrats shouldn't do it in reverse? I'll ask that first, and have a follow up.
So I don't think he should do it in reverse. I think there are other remedies to that situation. I think it should be remedied, right? Like, if one side or the other, like, for example, if Trump wins and he packs the court, right? Because obviously Trump's just going to do whatever the fuck he wants. The idea that he would
let's say he does that
is crazy. I don't think that the us going in and say, well, now we're going to pack the courts is the answer to that problem. I think the answer to that problem is to reverse the decision, is to wind back the clock. Because you can, when things come like that. You can simply rescind all the appointing that were appointed by Trump.
Wait. So you would be in favor?
You absolutely can.
Wait. So you would be in favor, for example, of passing a law that removed all of the seats of the people who were added by the Republicans in this case. Fair?
No, because
wait, you just said that.
Or just impeaching one and swapping Garland in after he's done at the DOJ.
Well, you just said that my remedy wouldn't be a counter PAC, but it would be something else to level the playing field. I thought that's what you just said, Wick.
It is. However, not all remedies are the same. Not all reversals.
Okay, so what remedy would exist?
And all issues are the same. The idea that this is court packing in the same way that is court packing is a flattening of the term that I think just makes
I'm proposing you, Wick,
what they're trying to do when they come.
I'm proposing you a counter situation which is not court packing, right? You are undoing by statute getting rid of the seats that were added by MAGA in this hypothetical, okay? And those are still judges. They're still being paid. Okay, but they just don't have a seat on the Supreme Court because you've legislatively gotten rid of them. Okay, so in that situation, that would be a remedy, wouldn't it? And it's not court packing.
It is. It is.
It is court packing to remove those seats.
No, it is a remedy, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so would you be okay with that?
A remedy for if
in the hypothetical, Trump, right? So I'm going to repeat the hypothetical.
1,000 Republicans. And get rid of those without. Yes. Okay. I'm saying that's okay.
So I'll give you another example then. So suppose that Mitch McConnell does not give a hearing to a particular justice, never has an up or down vote. Would you be in favor, for example, of why not?
because these are different things. One is a thing where he has added to the court, and the other situation is he has refused to seat. That's still a problem, and there still needs to be a remedy. I don't know what that remedy should be. To be clear, I don't have an answer for you,
told you,
but
right?
I can tell you, right? No, that idea that, they did it, so we can do it too, I reject that entirely.
Stephen just told you, right? No, wait, hang on a second. We are not talking about tit for tat. I specifically am giving you a remedy that is not a PAC. That was part of this entire exercise. It is not a counter PAC. It is removing the seat. And Stephen just told you, people don't really care about the number of justices. What they care about is the partisan balance. He explained that. I thought you agree with that, Wick. Why wouldn't you be in favor of undoing what the breach of norm that McConnell did by just removing that seat? Why wouldn't you be in favor of that?
Maybe we should go backwards a bit, because I can't speak for everyone else, but me personally, I don't care about the partisan balance. I care that the court is deciding fairly on what it is that they're ruling on. Partisanship should be out of the courts.
The whole norm that you're trying to defend.
I recognize that's hard to do. I recognize it's almost an impossible task.
The norm you're trying to defend is premised on the lack of partisan influence in the court. That's the whole norm that you're trying to defend. Do you agree that norm was viciously violated when McConnell refused to give a vote? Okay, so if that norm was violated, why wouldn't you be in favor of a remedy to that norm violation? Would be with respect
remedy. I am not opposed to any redress whatsoever, but the redress that you proposed and that Destiny proposed, where that we simply either, I think what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, was basically impeach the justice.
I would say just get rid of the seat. You don't even need you get 50 senators.
Why get rid of the seat? What do you mean get rid of the seat? So we have 8 Supreme Court justices?
Yeah. You get by statute.
Why not just swap them out with the Democrat?
Hang on.
You gotta get your participation trophies in, boys.
What I am proposing would make an end. You don't need to impeach someone. You just get rid of their seat. By statute, you can expand the number of seats. You can also constrict the number of seats, and you get rid of the seat that a particular justice is sitting on. That's totally constitutional.
Why not just impeach a conservative judge? I feel like that would just be.
It takes more votes. So get rid of the seat and make a new seat and add a Democrat.
Oh, okay.
This is also really bad.
Wow.
Now Trump, if he gets the point and says, you know what, I'm just going to reduce.
That's
Can
a
you
remedy.
hold on? Also, wait.
Right?
Yeah. When you talk about when you talk about remedies, hold on. You guys talk about remedies. Wick, would it be illegal for me to steal $50,000 from you?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a bad thing? Is it tit for tat if you come back? Is it tit for tat? Is it tit for tat if you come back and steal that $50,000 back from me with a gun?
No.
What?
Okay, if that's not, then why would it matter if you impeach?
You have something that is mine, and I took back
like a Supreme Court seat. Yes.
It's yours.
It doesn't belong to you.
It did. It belonged to Obama.
No, he got outplayed.
Right.
Let's just level what happened.
Yes,
He
but
got
about power
outplayed.
politics.
Court slots don't belong to anybody.
Wait.
Hold on. The idea that the seat belongs to Obama in perpetuity is just not true.
Not into perpetuity, but it was his pick for a court pick.
Sure.
Well, let's just pick it till he got.
Yeah.
And then it was stolen from him. So why not?
Ideally, the remedy for all this is we simply vote blue. And
no, that's not a remedy. No. Hold on. To be clear, if we win, stop. If we win a Supreme Court pick because we win a presidency and somebody ends up retiring and now the court is 5-4, that's not a win.
How is that not a win?
Because it should be 6-3 in our favor. That's not a win for you. What do you know?
Like I said, flip the table. Cry about it. We gotta
So Gibbs, every time Gibbs says something like this, as well as it being fucking stupid,
it's true though. It's true. I mean, listen, I've listened to everything you said for a while.
It's actually it's both stupid and very insightful. It's stupid because he's showing his hand, and it's like a very. I mean,
I'm not trying to hide my hand.
Yeah, it's a very dumb optical thing to do in the context of the debate. But the reason why it's actually very insightful is this is actually.
Is that a gotcha?
No. What's actually going on is the conservatives are caring about the partisan balance of the courts. It's 100% true. No one actually cares about the number of seats. They care about the rulings. They care about the rulings on Dobbs. That's what Lactoid is caring about. He's caring about having conservatives from the Federal Society that he agrees with. That's what is at play, not like the number of seats. Yeah, originalists.
Originalism is a judicial philosophy. It's different than like political conservatism. That's an important distinction. But I want to ask you a question. When you were going with that back and forth with Wick, you brought up a non-court packing, remedy. Now, I already was clear that I still oppose that. But my question for you is, why didn't you come in here hot proposing that remedy as opposed to the much more incendiary court packing?
Oh, I'm happy to do both. I'm indifferent between them.
Hold on. So if we do the non-court packing remedy, then you're fine. Court packing off the table. Get rid of it.
Yeah. If so, just to be 100% clear, if Mitch McConnell never did that thing with Merrick Garland's seat, I would not be in favor of court packing. My belief that it should be packed has to do with what Merrick Garland did in 2016, 2017.
This is a problem.
Yeah,
this is a problem.
I would not be in favor of it
because
if he never did that.
A lot of Republicans, partisan Republicans, maybe not the ones on this panel, would say the exact same thing in reverse, that they wouldn't be okay with what McConnell did if Harry Reid hadn't done what he did when he came to that. This is what I'm talking about when each side
or when Joe Biden did what he did.
Behavior
Joe Biden didn't do anything, again, to be clear.
Uses a threat.
But I'm happy to run that clock back with you, Wick. And what you'll find is the people who quote unquote started it was absolutely Republicans, 100%. And if that's the game you want to do, and who had the bigger violations of norms? Absolutely, Mitch McConnell had the bigger violation of norms. And if you want to point to some statement made by Joe Biden, fine. Joe Biden says some stupid shit. I'm not going to endorse everything Joe Biden has ever said in his life. And so, yeah, I 100%. It is my belief that I would not be in favor of these remedies if the Senate hadn't abdicated its role in the Merrick Garland nomination.
I don't believe it.
You don't believe me.
Hold on. Also, wait. I don't even like giving Biden that much heat. Because there is a world where the idea that he suggested maybe isn't even necessarily a bad one if codified, and it was suggested when there wasn't a vacancy. Maybe there is some legitimate argument to 4 months before a president their term ends that should be held open for the next president for reasons. For maybe there are some reasons why that may be. But the fact that was suggested when he was in the Senate, okay, when there wasn't even a vacancy up, is far different than what McConnell ended up doing. And to compare these two things, like any discussion of this ever is the same as McConnell actually going through with it with the Supreme Court.
To follow the norm.
And then did not follow the norm. Did not follow the norm. Yes, true. He broke that.
And then not to follow it with Amy Coney Barrett, right? So even if you just had Joe Biden, like, except for a moment that the new rule should have been the Joe Biden rule. They violated that rule. So how could you possibly have a go at Joe Biden if we just want some consistency? If you were going to establish a norm with Mitch McConnell, that Amy Coney Barrett should not have been nominated. But none of you will ever want to remedy that situation. However,
why do you think it is a remedy?
Wait, hold on. Isn't this whole mess started because RBG didn't step down and then she died? Hold on.
Not relevant.
No, it is relevant because they were willing to keep her there and we weren't willing to fight about all this shit.
Hold on, wait, Gibbs, they couldn't take her out if she decided to stay on.
They could have pressured her. You're telling you the difference.
You don't think people were pressuring her to step down? What?
I guess not enough. Not enough. I don't know. It seems like we're sitting here. It was her selfishness.
I, for one, am glad that politicians can't pressure Supreme Court justice.
Every time the reforms and the threats, that's exactly what that is. Pressure. The reforms, the court packing, those are pressure on the Supreme Court.
Gibbs. I want to respond to something. I just want to say one final thing to Gibbs. Gibbs, do you prefer Venmo or like PayPal? How much, like, what's the preferred platform for me to pay you for making our points for us? Because every time you speak, you show what's really going on here.
Yeah,
what's really going on here
between you and me is I'm actually honest. I'm just sitting here saying, I'm not even saying it's partisan hackery. I'm sitting here saying, hey, this is what's happened. You got outplayed. You're crying. You can sit here and say that's partisan hackery. I'm not going to be one of these dishonest people like you are and try to lie to people in order to get my way and accomplish it and dress it up in window dressing like a Christmas turkey. But that's what you're doing, Papa. You're sitting here lying to people. You're sitting here being dishonest, and then you want to sit here and try to accuse me, who's the only one being honest on the panel here. Give me a break.
Okay.
Just go, like, you're flowing in and out of mute, by the way.
I just want to quickly respond. The 1992 Joe Biden.
Wrap it up.
Sure.
I got some super chats to read, and you guys have to go at some point. So.
Yeah, and I understand I'm not going to get an agreement on this, but the 1992 thing, like, again, as I've been looking into it, I think there absolutely is something here. The idea that you have the current Democrat president, right, advocate for this forcefully. He said it was essential. This isn't just like, well, maybe we could do it.
What does forcefully mean? Advocate forcefully? What did he threaten? What was the threat? Who supported him?
I didn't say that forcefully required a threat. I said he said it was essential. That's what I said. I said that he argued for it, and he said that it was essential. Those are the words that he used. And so when you have Joe Biden, like, putting that forward, yes, like, when Mitch McConnell does it later, do I disagree with it?
What did he say was essential? Read the quote. What is the quote you're reading?
Sure.
Did he say it's essential we do this right now under Bush, or did he say it's essential, like, as a principle?
He said, quote, as a senator more than 2 decades ago, vice president, Joseph R. Biden Jr. argued that President George Bush should delay filling a Supreme Court vacancy should one arise until the presidential election was over, and that it was, quote, essential, quote.
Why are you reading? You just said you've been looking at this. You're reading the first paragraph of the New York Times article.
What is his quote?
You asked what Biden said.
Yeah, I'm asking you the quote from Biden. You're giving me the first paragraph. I'm reading the same thing. Yes.
Is it inaccurate that he said it was essential that the Senate refused to confirm a nominee to the court until then? Are you saying that's wrong?
I'm asking you for the quote.
That the word essential is the quote that I'm referring to. Okay, the word essential is the quote.
Wait. Do you acknowledge there's a difference between him saying it's essential that we block Bush's Supreme Court pick versus it's essential that in election or campaign years that we don't nominate people because of all the external pressures or blah blah. Like you acknowledge there are two different things, right?
Wait, and that's what Mitch McConnell did.
No, he
reneged. And then he reneged. Lactoid.
Wait, hold on. But when the actual pick for Merrick Garland, that's what he did, right?
No. But Biden isn't threatening this. The idea that it's forceful doesn't make sense. There was no vacancy even, okay? And McConnell didn't do what Biden did. McConnell with support in the Congress, and he even threatened this earlier with Reid.
I didn't use the word. If I did, I apologize. I don't think I used the word threaten. I said that he forcefully argued, and he called it essential. Now, let me ask you: did Mitch McConnell do what Joe Biden said was essential?
I'm not sure that he did.
Wait, hold on.
I'm not sure that he did because the time frame that we're talking about is completely different, isn't it?
No. He said, should one arise, right? Should one arise, a vacancy should be delayed until the presidential election was over.
When was that statement made in relation to the election?
I don't know exactly when.
Yeah, we should figure that out because that'll be outcome determinative about what they're saying.
So, this is Biden's forceful statements. Quote, Bush should, quote, not name a nominee until after the November election is completed, end quote. And then he said, quote, the Senate Judiciary Committee should seriously consider not scheduling confirmation hearings on the nomination until after the political campaign season is over. These are his forceful quotes.
And he said, quote, that is what is fair to the nominee and essential to the process. Right.
By the way, I disagree with Joe Biden. What he said there was.
I understand you disagree with Joe Biden.
Back to that.
The reason why I'm going back to this, I understand you disagree with Joe Biden. I disagree with Joe Biden too on this particular issue.
Joe Biden disagrees with Joe Biden because he didn't do
it. What I'm saying is,
y'all are skipping the biggest part of what Biden says in there. Like that, he also says some will criticize such a division and say it's nothing more than an attempt to save a seat on the court in hopes that a Democrat will.
I can't even understand what the fuck you're saying right now.
Well, listen, then shut the fuck up and listen, then, okay? But that would not be our intention, Mr. President. If that were the course, we were to choose in the Senate to not consider holding hearings until after the election. Instead, it would be our pragmatic conclusion that once the political season is underway, and it is, action on Supreme Court nomination must be put off until after the election campaign is over.
I didn't.
Yeah, that's an outright threat. Well, then maybe get your ears checked, Papa. It was basic English.
And just to be clear here, right? Like I would say, based on the quotes that Destiny read and that I've read, it seems like Mitch McConnell did fulfill what Joe Biden argued for. Now, I think they're both wrong. And I, again, repeated, how many times can I repeat myself? This is a problem. And this is wrong. Great. But the characterization of this, which is these fucking Republicans, they're never held to any standard. They always do whatever they want. They come in here and they propose this and then they oppose court packing. Oh my God, this is unprincipled. This is ridiculous. When Joe Biden, who's the current president of the United States, proposed this and argued for it, and he called it essential.
One, he didn't do it, and two, maybe, I don't even know, maybe Piers would go along with me here. I think that we would have a slightly less problem with what happened if they'd at least stuck to the very fucking rule that they proposed and 100%. They'd foregone Amy's nomination. Then
why are you rolling your eyes, Lactoid? If they established a rule, right? Even assume that we have to agree with Joe Biden, which I do not. To be clear, Joe Biden does not bind my opinion about what is acceptable and what's not acceptable and what norm was violated or not violated. For example, proposing a norm violation is different than doing a norm violation. Just so we're 100% clear. But even accepting that I have to buy into what Biden is saying, Mitch McConnell went against that very rule. So how can that possibly not be a basis to correct it if they're violating their own norm?
Well, no. So here's the reason, right? I believe that the problem.
You're going to give your reason, then I'm going to read the super chats, and we're going to get the closings because
I believe the problem here is that of skimping out on the nominee in the first place, right? I think that what Joe Biden argued for was wrong, and I think what Mitch McConnell did is wrong. Now, what you're saying is, now what you're saying is, actually, I wouldn't, we wouldn't even have that much of a problem with it as long as Mitch McConnell. Hold on, well, sure, you would have, but we heard otherwise from Destiny. Maybe.
No, he said not as much of a problem.
I'll be credible. Yeah, maybe. Didn't I just say not as much?
Yeah, but you're making it sound like you'd be okay with it.
Okay. Maybe not as much. Whatever he said, you can roll the tape back and listen to it in his own words, okay? But like, if he stuck to the same rule. But like, here's the problem. Like, it's not actually clear what norm was necessarily created by Mitch McConnell. The norm could be, actually, you get to do this hold on. Oh, actually, which I disagree with, again, for like the 8 millionth time. The norm could be, since we're just like rewriting the norm.
On Tuesday.
Hold on. No, not Tuesday. Not Tuesday. No,
Lactoid is 100% right. He's right. The norm is, as long as the conservatives get their way, then it's okay.
No. Let me finish the sentence. So if like Congress is in control, like then they got the majority leader, then like that's the norm created. Then they do get the delay.
And if his name starts with
maybe
M,
that's the word.
And if he happens to have gray hair, and if he's married to an Asian person, that's the stupidest. It's a distinction without a difference.
Can you give me your Venmo so like I can pay you for making my arguments for me? I said at the beginning that I think the whole norm violation was a problem, and then I think it was wrong when Joe Biden proposed it in 1992, and I think it's wrong when Mitch McConnell did it. But what you're saying,
why are you saying the norm could reasonably be construed as having something that was never argued because Mitch McConnell didn't necessarily violate his own norm. That's the only thing.
They said that they didn't want to nominate somebody in an election year. That's what they said, and then they did it forward. Who's the guy that everybody says he's gay, and he was another senator that came out and he was
Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham literally said. I think
People said Lindsey Graham was gay.
They asked Lindsey Graham verbatim. They said like, will you nominate somebody in Trump's last year? And Lindsey Graham, no, we definitely wouldn't. And guess what? They sure as fuck did.
And you want to know his response? When he was called on, he's like, well, what the Democrats did with Kavanaugh on those hearings, that really changed everything. I mean, how are you ever going to take?
If you want,
that was probably hold on. If that's the case,
Wick, it's not the point. Wick, it is not the point. It's not the same, right? And you can even read Biden's own response to these accusations. My record as Judiciary Committee chairman is hard to beat. I presided over the process that resulted in Justice Kennedy, a Reagan nominee, being confirmed to the Supreme Court in a presidential election year. I allowed the nominations of Judge Bork and Justice Thomas to proceed to the floor, even when they didn't have the support of the committee. While some say that my comments in June 1992 committed to a more politicized nomination process, they didn't prevent the Senate from fulfilling its constitutional duties because there was no vacancy at the time. So when he's called to do his task and follow what the government and the norms say to do, then he did. So the idea that he suggested an idea when there wasn't even a vacancy, and somehow that's the equivalent to McConnell pulling through on some rule that they didn't even follow later on, that they obviously didn't, and the fact that you won't own that is hilarious to me, which shows you have no values and no principles and no understanding of the English language, is insane. It's a stupid comparison.
Okay, real quick. So, the fact that you're just reiterating this, right? You're just repeating what you're saying, like, oh, well, it didn't actually happen. He threatened it, but like he didn't actually pull the trigger. I understand it didn't actually happen. You don't have to repeat that for like the fourth time.
But there was no vacancy. There was no vacancy.
Hold on. But he did argue for it.
Yes,
and he did
argue for it.
Right?
A lot of people argue for it.
And
the Constitution.
Sure. And I already said that was bad. Easy. So when we're talking about Biden doing this, he absolutely did say what he said, and he argued for what he argued. Now, if what you're saying, which is like the details specifically about Mitch McConnell saying, like, I'm establishing this norm, I'm establishing this principle that this won't happen in an election year, regardless of the composition of Congress, and then he immediately like violated that when it came to Amy Coney Barrett, then he's being hypocritical there. Sure, I can admit that.
So why don't we look at Biden's statements a couple years ago where Biden says he doesn't support like Supreme Court expansion? Wouldn't that count more than any other type of statement made from 1992?
Whoa. Just to be clear, like Joe Biden, it's much more difficult for me to find like stuff on him saying he's in favor of court packing, but Kamala Harris was much more explicit, right? That's why I've been specifically talking about Kamala Harris when it came to court packing. Joe Biden was the 1992 comments when it came to delaying the seat. Now, I think that in the same way that you could say that Mitch McConnell was being hypocritical when it came to Amy Coney Barrett, you could also say that like Joe Biden was being hypocritical. If what you said is correct, if what you said is correct about like him specifying that he's creating this norm and then reneging on it immediately afterwards.
He didn't create a norm. Okay, it was a conversation. It was a suggestion. It was an argument. He didn't create the norm.
No, but he argued. No, Joe Biden argued for like an establishment of a norm in 1992.
You understand that you can argue for the establishment of norm and still follow the other norms, right? You can argue that, right? Like I could argue with a significant other that we should go out at the Outback Steakhouse every Friday, and we might not do that. I didn't create the norm because I argued for it.
Lactoid. Maybe we can shortcut this. You acknowledge that McConnell actually doing it is substantively worse than Biden talking about it. You acknowledge that the McConnell actually doing it is worse.
No, it's not worse. It's a different thing. It's a nature. In the nature of it, it is completely different. These are two different things. Arguing in favor of something or arguing for a thing is not anywhere near, it's not creating a norm. It's a different thing.
I disagree. I think that when you
would be wrong. You're just wrong. You're wrong.
Sure. I'm wrong. I get it. But when you argue forcefully for something, I do think that's like
argue
part of
forcefully? Why do you keep saying argue forcefully? Why do you keep adding adjectives? Like, who's threatening?
I think that's part of.
Where's the threat?
It is a threat. If you say I will do this if X happens,
no
that's
one
either
said
a promise
that. He
or a
never
threat.
said that.
That's what he said.
No
He said in the situation. He said if there was a situation where this occurred under Bush Sr., guess what? Then they're going to follow this. That's what he's going to recommend, and that's what they're going to do.
Hold on.
That was
you know what? Easy question then fine to understand this. Let's say that Biden was still running and he was potentially leading the ticket or whatever. What do you think is the bigger concern? Biden either expanding the court or somehow using the Senate to defy these norms or whatever, or Donald Trump finding ways to circumvent the Constitution? What is the bigger threat to you?
Gibbs.
Wait, like between Donald Trump and then packing the court?
Donald Trump trying to circumvent the Constitution or undermine the Constitution, or Biden trying to pack the court? What do you think is like a greater threat?
Biden, the threat packing the court.
Okay, I know you would say, no, he's retarded. Okay, Lactoid. What do you think is the bigger threat?
Well, that's okay. You can think that.
I don't think either of them are particularly credible threats.
I asked what's the bigger threat? The guy who's tweeting constantly about undermining and suspending the Constitution.
Yeah.
Wait. Actually, I'm curious. Wait.
Is
Trump creating?
I'm gonna let everyone answer this. I promise.
Did Trump create a new norm when he went on and he tweeted about undermining the Constitution? Was that creating a new norm?
I criticize that. Yes, it is a problem. Yes, it is a problem. And I've criticized that particular statement from him multiple times. I'll go into fucking communities of right-wingers and I'll argue with them about that particular point. Or when I'm having a discussion, someone brings it up. Yeah, that was really bad. You know what other things that Trump did that's terrible? Trump proposed burning the flag. Terrible fucking proposal. Horrible. Why does he keep doing this? I'm opposed to that too. Like if we want to say what Trump does this, that's bad. We can keep going down that. We can keep pointing out particular things that I disagree with when it comes to Trump. But I want to point out like how fair I'm being on this, because what I just said was when I'm talking about the threat of packing the court, I specified Kamala Harris was making those threats. It is much more difficult for me to find anything about Joe Biden specifically threatening to pack the courts. I don't think that he's done it in the same way that Kamala Harris has. I think Kamala Harris is a bigger threat when it comes to packing the courts than Joe Biden is.
Is there support in the Senate or is there support in Congress right now for packing the court? Is that even a thing that?
Yeah, I think if you would break I think you'd get Democrats to vote for it. Yeah,
I think okay. So we have Pisco who thinks so. I do think that like there's political obstacles in the same way of like
should do it. I think
in the same way of like Trump becoming a dictator. I think there's political obstacles in place, which is a good thing. But it is a risk. But it is a risk.
Of course, I'm for ending the filibuster.
Oh my God. Okay, we'll have another discussion.
Just look at it. Listen to what he has to say. It's crazy.
We break all the norms. We break all the norms. And then when the Democrats want to reestablish their own prominence and go by the rules that you've set, which is the rules don't matter, the norms don't matter, you start crying and saying, but what about the... Stop it. We're not going to play this double standard bullshit where we have to be the ones constantly defending our institutions and norms. And for you guys to nominate someone like Trump, someone who is so absolutely anathema to the norms and institutions of this country. There's no world in which I'm going to hew to that double standard. None, zero. As long as what we're doing is constitutional.
If they're doing it, we can do it too. We're going to go down together. Mutually assured destruction. Let's burn it down together, baby. We don't care as long as they lose. You don't have to win. They just got to lose.
On principle, I don't even agree with the filibuster. I think the filibuster is a tool against democracy. I don't think it's a necessary thing like you guys all think.
The Senate is a tool against democracy. Look, the Senate and the Supreme Court are tools against democracy. Yes, they're by design to limit democracy. Yes, that's true.
Sure, and I think it's a tool. And I think it's a tool that is far too much preferencing.
Second Amendment, all the amendments are limits on democracy.
Far too much preferencing.
Why even have a Senate? Just have a House. It's so much more democratic.
So why even have a Supreme Court?
So hang on a second. I do believe in such.
I do believe in all. You know.
I do believe in constitutional republic. believe in
out.
I
Hey,
do
you
believe
know.
in Constitutional Republic. I do believe in Constitutional Republic. I do believe in the judiciary.
Yeah,
I do
that's
believe
fine.
that we ought to have two chambers of the House and a lower house. So
and should
that's
they be
all.
different?
That is all fine. But you acting as though the filibuster is some ingrained constitutional principle. It's not. It's a rule of the Senate. And you acting as though packing the court is anathema to our Constitution. It's not. It's an explicit power given to the Congress. And you're acting as though you're acting as though you're acting
Can't
as
just
though
make
that.
dude. How are you going to tell you the same thing?
So you're acting as though
There is some fantastic
going back.
spurging
You're
going on
acting
here.
as though you're
Go
acting
on
as
with
though
that.
you're acting as though you're acting as though you're acting as though
You know,
you're acting as though that.
Fucking reading his notes.
God damn, bro, you sound like today, Junior. Come on.
Well, I would finish quicker if you didn't stop interrupting. Is that a fair principle?
I've been waiting on you here. Listen, I wasn't the one interrupting.
That's
You
what
just
she
Did I
said.
say,
Hold on,
Gibbs, you're
let
the
Keith
only
go
one
get it out. Let
interrupting?
Keith go get it out.
Keep
Let
on
Keith
bitching.
go
Keep
get it
on
out.
bitching. Just go ahead.
Everything that I'm envisioning is completely constitutional. Everything that I'm envisioning would help increase the responsiveness of our republic and would not intrude on the principles laid down by our framing fathers, who explicitly left this to the discretion of the houses on how they're going to run their procedures. I think that the filibuster is an absolutely insane rule in this time in this day and age, and we're given far too much leeway to this Supreme Court as packed by Mitch McConnell to have the fiat over our country at the moment. And so, absolutely,
Yes or no? Was removing the filibuster for judicial nominations a good thing from a rule of law perspective?
100% removing the filibuster. You're talking about the initial one
Republicans
of
did
lower
and
federal.
Democrats did. I'll talk about both of
Yeah,
them in
yeah.
aggregate.
All of that is complete. All of that is completely fine. The 60 vote threshold is completely stupid.
You think
I don't
that
agree
made
with that.
things better? Things have gotten better from a.
Well, the
integrity
alternative
perspective.
was
Yeah.
alternative was infinitely filibustering the. So do you think it's better
So
to have it
that's-
vacated for federal courts? If you had to
No,
choose
I
between,
think-
if you had to
I
choose,
think
no, you can't choose the Nirvana. If you have to choose between no federal judges and
some sort of consensus.
Ryan, answer this question. Answer
if you have to,
Destiny's
what's a
asking
better
you.
world? No federal
Here.
judges or breaking the filibuster and appointing federal judges?
I think what you need was a compromise.
Answer
oh my
the
God.
question.
Dude, I hate them.
Okay.
I hate
Right,
conservatives. I hate conservatives. I hate them.
No,
Oh my
wait,
God. It's ridiculous. It's so insane.
Wick, make him answer the question.
No?
Wick, make him answer the question. Would you prefer a world in that situation of no nominations and appointments of lower federal courts or breaking the filibuster? Which would you prefer, Ryan? Answer the question.
I think
I'll answer.
that this made things worse. I think
Ryan,
that it-
answer the question. Which world is preferable?
I am not. You're not my interlocutor. I do not.
You're such
think-
a scaredy cat. Answer the question. Have a
Please go.
backbone.
Which would you rather? Would you rather get beaten up constantly or get a cookie?
Make him
answer the
answer.
question. Make a
Make-
decision, right? Like obviously one
I would
is
try
better than the
not to
other.
get beaten up or eat a cookie. No one. can do
Answer.
that.
Well, this was the choice presented. Wait, this is not some crazy hypothetical. This was
No,
the choice
you're not my
presented. This was the
interlocutor.
choice. Wait, Ryan. This was the choice presented to the Senate Democrats. The choice was break the filibuster or no federal court appointees. And what I'm asking you is, what would you have done?
I think they made a mistake. I think it helped them short term, and then what it led to was getting rid of the filibuster for Supreme Court nominations, and that, while it solved a short term problem, has had the unintended consequence of making the legitimacy of the system worse. And
So
these
is the
choices
answer the
were
preferable-
not- I'm answering the question, you moron. So I mean, these things make it worse. So yes, they solved a problem, and it solved it short
I didn't
term.
ask if it solved the problem. I asked which world is preferable. Which world was preferable?
Integrity of the system. So I think they
Which
probably
world was preferable, Ryan? I'm not an idiot.
Answer the
You didn't-
question.
No.
Just
Why don't you answer it with a backbone? I asked you, is it preferable to have none of your judicial appointees ever considered or to break the filibuster? That's the question. Which
Would you
world
like
is
me to
preferable?
Read back my answer.
No, I'd like you to answer the question. Which world?
Talking about a backbone while whining is like not a
why,
good
why
look.
won't you answer it in the frame that I'm presenting it?
Because I do not.
Because you're scared. Yeah, because you're scared. Because you're scared. Because you have no backbone, and the truth is, you understand how ridiculous it sounds. You understand how ridiculous it
You
sounds.
understand the scenario presenting? It's like, hey, would you rather smash Oprah with herpes or like Gorlock the Destroyer with AIDS? Like, that's what you're doing, bro. You can't sit there and go, you're scared for not answering that whenever you're just presenting it.
Oprah with herpes.
I think
Obviously.
the frustrating thing is it always feels like like Democrats are the ones that have to consider the practical consequences of what's going on, and we're the ones that have to come to the table to negotiate. But when it comes to Republicans, it's this rote like appeal to either whatever the laws or the norms at the time, and it doesn't really matter. They're not expected to come to the table on fucking anything. So when you have one side that's constantly allowed to either erode norms or break laws, then fine, that's okay. But then when the table is turned back to the Democrats, well, now we have to let the fucking children, the retarded toddlers, come back to the table and compromise with them.
You are correct in that it is super frustrating and that it is a problem, but the adults need to act like the adults.
No, wrong. That is not an adult. Wick, it is not an adult decision when you're trying to decide how fast to go on the interstate and you split the decision democratically between you and your 1-year-old child in the back seat. That's not an adult decision. And that's the issue that we have right now is the Republicans try to destroy the country over and over again. It's like, well, we need to be the adults and we need to come in and compromise.
The wheel. What I'm asking is we don't show them you think that's bad?
Wick, what would you have done? Wick, what would you have done? Would you say, all right, I guess no more lower federal court appointees, or would
I reject the framing because I was.
It must be nice. It must be nice. It must be nice to be able to reject reality. Well, I reject this reality.
That wasn't reality.
I have to choose. That was the reality.
Wick. The reality was they were not letting through lower federal court appointments. That is the reality. Do you agree? That's the reality.
Other things that do you think every single judicial nominee was blocked? Every single one?
There were 30 blocked. It was more than the total amount of filibuster judicial appointments in the past 3 decades. In one term for Obama. McConnell already said he was going to make him a one-term president. He didn't want to pass anything. Yes, that was the point.
But he passed things.
That was the Supreme Court pick, and only after the nuclear option did we get federal court appointments.
So Wick, you're telling me you wouldn't have done the nuclear option then? And you would have
because it's led to a worse world. Because you decided, hey, this is the only way forward.
Insane.
We have to do it to save America. And look where we are today.
Yeah, we have federal courts that are working. Yes, we have federal court judges that were finally able to do federal court things. Yes.
Insane. It's absolutely insane.
Look,
and I'm sure, Wick, would you support? Did you support them getting rid of the Supreme Court filibuster?
No.
Oh, no. I'll ask Lactoid. Would you be okay with them? Sorry, were you okay with them getting rid of the Supreme Court?
I wish we had it because then we wouldn't have a 6-3 court.
Wait, Lactoid.
Just to be clear, I don't have this is a subject I can't talk on. I don't have any idea.
You have no idea whether you would have been in support of getting rid of the Supreme Court filibuster.
No, can we give that some respect? Because I honestly, this is one of my pet issues. I think the world would be a much better place if we didn't force people to have opinions on things when they say they don't have an opinion.
Yeah, hold on. I'll look into it and get back to you.
And if he says he doesn't have an opinion, doesn't look into it.
The whole premise of this argument has been that the Democrats unleashed Pandora's box when they got rid of the nuclear option.
Do you think
that is your premise?
All of you shut up because, again, I've got to be quick. If you think I'm excusing Republicans' bad actions here, you're dead wrong.
You are.
Republicans are more responsible.
No, they're not.
But
there is no responsibility with no accountability, and you're against accountability, so there's no responsibility.
No, I'm not against accountability. I'm against the forms of accountability that you have proposed.
Which is any form of accountability. Here's a question. Here's a super simple question. Can you think of one compromise? If we all need to come to the table and be adults, what's one compromise the Republicans have made that's the equivalent of the Gore-Bush election of 2000? What's one compromise that they've made that's the equivalent of the Garland robbery for the appointment? What's one compromise? One compromise.
Election was decided. Was it a compromise between politicians or was it a judicial ruling?
It was the Supreme Court absolutely shutting it the fuck down.
The Supreme Court doesn't compromise like that. They make rulings. It's a different thing.
Can you give me one example?
Okay.
Can you give me? No, it's not. No, to be clear, it's not. Okay, because the Democrats walked away from that election, and that was the end of it. Donald Trump. Who do you think accepted the results of the election?
Yes, as any red-blooded American do. Look.
Yeah, hold on. Do you think Republicans have accepted the results of the election right now?
Right.
You know that today, 80% of Republicans think that the last election was still not procedurally fucked, not COVID fucked, but thought there was voter fraud, massive voter fraud. 80%. It's not the same.
Fucking problem.
So give me one example
of. A third of the Democrats think that the Republican assassination or the attempted assassination attempt
not even remotely the same thing. Not even remotely the same thing. Not number one, but number two.
Outside of reality.
No,
it's not even. There was visual evidence they watched happen. They still denied it.
It's not even remotely the same thing. And then I want an example.
Allegedly.
I want an example from anybody on this panel where Republicans have been forced to compromise when they've been in a position of power or to do otherwise. A single time. Just one example in the past 20 years, 25 years of governance.
I'll give you one during the Trump years that Mitch McConnell did. Trump tried to pressure and force McConnell to get rid of the filibuster when he was trying to get through his legislation passed, and the Democrats were using the filibuster over and over and over and over and over again to stop that dog shit legislation from coming through. So you know what? McConnell was like, no, we're not going to do that, and he stood up against Trump, and he compromised, right, and said, no, we're going to keep this in place. We're not going to do that.
That's not
Boom.
that's the Republican Party fighting against their own president. I'm asking about them compromising with the Democrats.
Well, no, they were doing that in a compromise with the Democrats, right?
They're compromising with themselves because Donald Trump is destroying the Republican Party. I'm asking, when have the Republicans ever compromised to the Democrats or with the Democrats?
Yeah,
I think Wick's example is actually perfect, right? The reason why that happened was specifically because it was like
Democrats were doing as they were filibustering.
It was a compromise with the filibustering Democrats, right?
You guys have lost your minds.
I'll give you an example.
This is just the fucking facts.
No, but you think
The only compromise is when the
preserve
Republicans were debating with themselves, they compromised. So that's kind of like a compromise.
You think McConnell preserved the filibuster out of principle? Are you insane?
Do you think he didn't?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. He did.
Okay.
He preserved the filibuster.
Republicans are all bad actors.
No.
They're all
McConnell is a bad actor. McConnell is a bad actor, and 100%.
Even bad actors can have principles.
McConnell preserved the filibuster.
Bad actor, but he had principles.
McConnell preserved the filibuster.
January 6th. Absolutely.
McConnell preserved the filibuster for the same reason he does. And you know what? Guess who McConnell supports now?
Finish that sentence.
I will. I just want Wick to say it.
McConnell supports Trump. Yes.
Yeah. So what good that was?
Do you think
what good that
compromising with Democrats? Do you think that compromising with Democrats means that you reject Trump just wholeheartedly?
But this was no compromise. What you're talking about is a tactic by McConnell not to do something out of principle, but out of self-interest. He didn't need to break the filibuster to do what they wanted. What they wanted was tax breaks for the rich.
Trump needed him to break the filibuster to do what Trump wanted, and that's why Trump pressured.
Let me finish my answer. So what McConnell wanted for his own self-interest was lowering taxes on billionaires and on rich people, and he wanted judicial appointments. And when it didn't suit him, he did break the filibuster for Supreme Court picks. So everything you're saying is opposite. McConnell was only operating in his own self-interest to the extent that there would have been some tension from Trump. It was McConnell putting his own agenda first. So everything you're talking about is complete garbage.
On Supreme Court was to get back at Harry Reid as a tit for tat. It was wrong. He shouldn't have done it. He should not have done it. The
legislative filibuster. He preserved the
same thing in kind of what you're advocating for when you say we got to get them back for what they did.
Here's the question for you, Wick. Do you think that if McConnell
right now you are doing and behaving in the same way that McConnell does?
Do you think that if McConnell,
are you principled, sir?
Do you think that if McConnell saw it was in his own interest and his party's interest to get rid of the legislative filibuster, that he wouldn't have gotten rid of it?
But it was in his interest.
It wasn't. They'd already passed the tax cuts. They'd already gotten their Supreme Court picks. There was no interest in him doing it. Donald Trump is just a fucking retard. Donald Trump doesn't know what the three branches of government do. Okay, Donald Trump was just complaining to him that he wanted the filibuster option gone for no fucking reason. McConnell didn't even have the votes in his own party to get rid of it. It wasn't impeding their progress on anything. They'd already gotten all the shit that they wanted done, essentially. No, it wasn't going to benefit him to do it.
And to the extent they didn't, it was because they have defections in their own party. It was because of Murkowski and Collins and McCain.
That's why we had the filibuster today, is because of defections of Democrats' own party.
No, but it wasn't a problem.
Yes, that's true.
Sorry, no. It wasn't.
What's his fucking name?
It wasn't a problem. It wasn't a problem of getting 51 votes in terms of the Affordable Care Act getting repeal. They couldn't even get 50 votes. So at no point was Mitch McConnell's agenda at risk because of the filibuster in such a way that he would have an incentive to get rid of it. It was all internal interest. You are so naive to think Mitch McConnell that is somehow hewed in by principle or the dedication to the filibuster. It's so naive.
Crazy. Look, the respecting of senatorial norms, such as they are, is one of McConnell's key points and ways of doing things. To the extent that
you're so wrong. When they tried to repeal the ACA, they lost by 2 votes, 49 to 51. They changed norms there to repeal the ACA Because that was a thing they wanted to do, and they tried to change the filibuster rules there in order to do it.
And they wanted budget reconciliation. They were doing all sorts of wacky shit.
When it suits them, they'll do it. Yes, but you can't say, "Well, there's legislation that we've got 30 votes for in the Senate. Well, let's keep the filibuster in." Wow, they're so principled. Oh my God, look at how principled they are keeping the filibuster. They have 30 votes. It doesn't matter.
That's not an example, Wick. That's not an example. There was no incentive for them to break the filibuster.
Any example I can give you that you would accept.
Because there's none. No, because there's none. There is no example. Republicans are never expected. They're never expected. They're never expected to concede. They're never expected to compromise because Republicans are the insane fucking dude in the padded cell that you're asking us to go on a walk with. Republicans do not compromise ever on anything.
That's not true. I can give you an example from the Trump administration where they try to compromise.
I'm ready for this one.
HR 6136, which the Border Security and Immigration Reform Act, they actually wanted to give everything plus some to what the Dems had basically in the most recent immigration reform bill, and Dems were going to get, and Republicans were going to get the wall. The only thing they didn't have was the Dreamers, and guess what? The Dreamers didn't even get added to the most recent Reform Act, and so they shut it down on this thing because basically the Trump base revolted, even though they were trying to compromise on that stuff because they didn't want the Dreamers, and then Chuck Schumer shut down.
Wait, can we address what Gibbs just said? Let us address what Gibbs just said.
So they took that, they took the Dreamers out.
Compromise was failing to pass legislation.
But here's my
what's the compromise you're pointing to? You're pointing to like a failed situation.
No, hold on. So here's the compromise: is what got presented in the end. There, they had a full bill which gave you everything plus more. I think like the last one had 300 judges. This one had 5. So it had everything they wanted in this most recent
immigration
bill.
Judges.
Yes, plus some. Do you want to go through the bill? And so they compromised everything except for the Dreamers because that ended up getting the Trump base revolted. And Schumer said, "Well, if you don't put the Dreamers in there, no dice, no compromise." Even though they compromised.
Wait.
Hold on. Well, let me finish. Listen to you the whole time. Even though they compromised on everything else the Dems wanted, they're like, this is a sticky point, which they didn't even follow through with under the most recent immigration bill they put forth. So this is an example of Republicans compromising and Dems not.
Gibbs, it's a great point for us, and really, I owe you like $1,000 at this.
Are you retarded? Whenever they compromise,
Hold up. Gibbs,
if you compromise on 9 or 10 things and you don't compromise on one, are you giving willing compromise? That's just being dishonest. What you're doing right here.
Who controlled the houses of Congress at the time that was being considered?
I'm sure the Republicans did based off your response, if that's what you want.
Of course they did. They controlled both houses. Of course they did.
Well, hold on. That's not fair. Hold on. That's not fair. We say they control both houses, but there were times where they couldn't even have the majority speaker role in the House. So did Republicans really control it? Who the fuck knows? Who knows who was in control of the House, actually? I don't know.
What you're pointing to is the failure by Donald Trump. The failure
it was
of Donald Trump.
Schumer shot it down, so let's just get that clear.
The Democrats were willing to fund a border wall in exchange for some pathway to citizenship for the Dreamers.
They got everything but that.
What you're pointing to,
they didn't even hold on, but
and you said it yourself in your entire thing was that Trump balked when the base turned against him, and he once again hold on. The base.
And they said, hold on, and this is the kicker. They said, okay, we compromised on all this other stuff. Dems wouldn't budge on that. Guess what? Here comes the next time it comes around. Did y'all remember the Dreamers then? No, y'all all remember the Dreamers was convenient, even though we were willing to compromise with everything else.
Hold on. Wait. This is a bill that 121 Republicans supported in favor of. Okay, that most of them supported or most of them voted against. What are we even trying to say here?
It's just where they compromised.
No, but they didn't pass it because of themselves.
That was compromised.
They didn't pass it because of the
everything but the Dreamers. They got everything but the Dreamers, and y'all still balked.
If they wanted border wall funding,
even though there's a drop in the funding. Okay,
they controlled everything. They wanted
y'all were holding a gun to their head. Y'all wouldn't compromise. Republicans with the shoes on the other foot. Y'all don't want to sit here and take y'all's lumps and admit y'all were being obstructionists.
Republicans, it was their Congress. They obstructed themselves. They obstructed themselves.
Okay, you can try to spin this however you want. Here's Chuck Schumer and crew.
I gotta make a little money. I gotta read these super chats, and then we gotta go because I got things to take care of. I will host a part 2 of this panel, though. I will reach out to you all. We can continue this discussion. It'll be great, right? But it's not gonna be today because people need to go. I just want to say I love everybody.
I'm sorry. I get really heated. And you know
I
what,
know
Ryan?
It's good content.
Ryan,
but for now,
I'm sorry. I shouldn't apologize because I am very.
You shouldn't, and I disavow Pisco's apologies for being a pussy ass bitch motherfucker right now. Bitch made.
I actually like Lactoid, but I'm mad at him too. And you know what, Gib? I actually like him. Zetsu, I'm just kidding. I like all you guys. I love this country. I love this Constitution.
So we should get a beer.
Yeah. Oh, do you
Okay,
like
well, I'll
this
go
or
out to
not?
get a beer. Look,
Yeah,
let me fucking,
All right, let's get a
fucking
beer.
read these. Let me make my money. Let me give you all closing statements, and we can host a part 2 of this another day. But I do have to go. I'm going to go through these rapid fire real quick, and then we'll go. Parallax, $5. Tell Gibbs to wake up or shut up. Great. DJ 22606 for $20. If presidents are entitled to immunity from crimes, can the president not use his military to delete and eliminate conservative Supreme Court justices and part of the military personnel who carried out the act? Explain how, if that is okay, how it would be different from court packing. $10 from Artemis Fowl. Pisco only cares about constitutionality when it helps him get his desired outcomes and claims we don't have a constitution anymore when SCOTUS sides against him for immigration issues. $20 from Audacity. Pack the Supreme Court when you don't get your way immediately makes it a representative body that removes its intended purpose of interpreting law, legal case, and
So does
executive
failing
action,
to give
making
hearings
rulings on them.
and not have votes. That
I mean,
does the
like I
same
said,
thing.
well, I'm going to save all these for part 2. Zero Fucks, thank you for the 4-month membership. For the lawyers, does this debate count as a CLE?
No.
No.
It should. It should.
Because
Because I'm learning you all today. I'm learning you.
$20 from Artemis Fowl. Pisco can't understand that the process that may be actionable in the system could possibly have a massive corrosive effect on said system.
I
Pisco
can
wants to
understand
win.
that.
That's all Pisco cares about. The court is at odds with his own goals.
False.
$5 more from Artemis Fowl. Destiny losing the argument so hard, he's running to Twitter to tweet farm in order to use ad hominem
he should.
attack. What a loser. $5 from Artemis Fowl. Obviously, they can't pack the court because they don't have the votes. All they can do is whine and cry. We have more to fear from an executive to run amok is more scary than a judiciary run amok, question mark. Have you
Yeah,
idiots seen
100%.
the issues happening in Brazil?
So you are a cheerleader. Jesus Christ.
$5, yeah. $5.
You're pointing to the
originalist-
Brazil X ruling, and you're saying that shows that judiciaries are more dangerous than like Bolsonaro.
Somebody get this man pom-poms. Jesus Christ.
Originalists should believe the founders wanted to allow the destruction of the republic by abusing the constitutional processes. $10. I don't know why you people think Pisco cares about the legitimacy of the court. He only cares
I
about
do.
political goals to be achievable by any means, and SCOTUS is blocking it. Audacity for $5. This is a major winner scene where he gives one guy one round you could use, but then everyone is going to beat the piss out of you. $5 from Audacity.
I'm
Easy
Jack
opinion
Sparrow.
for Destiny to have when he doesn't and hasn't lived in the real world for a long time. $50 from Pondering Politics. Calls for court packing and court reform will continue and increase as long as the GOP gets to keep their ill-gotten SCOTUS gains. Do opponents of court packing support any measure to rebalance the court or roll back the GOP's gains?
Destiny thinks that the demand for cigarettes is elastic.
$20 from Artemis Fowl, the head of the leading
It is over
Ivy
time,
League colleges,
No, it's
plagiarizing their
inelastic.
students and
It's
fabricating
about,
evidence.
there's a time very. Never mind.
Yeah. Let me get through these. Or the massive amounts of retracted studies from COVID era are definitely conservatives' fault and not the institution. $20 from Pondering Politics. Lactoid. Biden was head of the committee. Why didn't he just outright confirm he wouldn't have hearings? Why are you creating a false equivalence? Biden said, hey, we might not do this, and McConnell actually acted.
Yeah, because
$5
the opportunity
point.
didn't come up for him, but he would have done it if the opportunity came up
I know
because he
we all
argued
wanna
for it.
respond to these. $5 from Fat Surprise, never-ending week stream hype. No, I'm going to waste away to nothing and I will die. Artemis Fowl for $20. Maybe this. Look, this is great. Like money. You guys are just arguing with each other in these fucking super chats and giving me $50, $20 to do it. Maybe the Senate Democrats could have chosen candidates that were acceptable for both parties instead of trying to install activist judges. Pisco's pretending there was no reason for the filibuster. No judges was better. $50.
Artemis Fowl, by the way, I just want to say this, is barely literate. I can't even understand these like super chats. He's like format them
Look,
better.
he's giving me money, so he's my best
Wait,
friend.
here's a quick question for
Also
the Republicans. Do we agree that Donald Trump tried to weaponize the DOJ more than the Biden administration did? Do we agree with that?
I suspect so, but I don't have a. I suspect so. But I don't have like a scope.
Dude, why are you dressed like Sub-Zero?
Because I was told I had to be on camera. I think because I didn't know you would be allowed to not be on camera.
Maybe he still believes in
Because I
COVID
prefer not to.
regulations, Pisco. You piece of shit,
true.
Sco. Ryan and Lactoid, who tried to weaponize the DOJ more? The guy who went on TV saying that we need to process. Yeah, now I'm asking you two because I know that you guys are independents. Yes. So, do you think that Donald Trump tried to weaponize the DOJ more when he tried to give them explicit instructions on how to act? Or do you think that Biden weaponized the DOJ more?
Weaponized the DOJ more.
What?
Trump weaponized the DOJ more.
Okay, Lactoid, what about you?
I think both did. I think that's probably right that Trump probably did it more.
Okay. So when Jill Steiner's
Love
tweeting
these guys.
about lawfare and all this, why are you retweeting her saying the Dems do it? What has Biden done to weaponize the DOJ?
Hold on. Just to be clear.
explained it.
Yeah.
We
That's
did.
the idiot.
We did a panel. We did a panel beforehand talking
Idiot,
about like
Destiny.
We
I'm
did a
sorry, I
panel.
haven't watched all of. I would have watched it.
I'm
Pisco
not-
was
I'm
on
not
it,
blaming-
and I
I
would
know,
never
I know.
watch a panel with Pisco on it. What a waste of fucking time. Sorry, go
Pisco
ahead.
wasn't. Pisco
I was
wasn't
on
on
the
it.
panel,
Pisco
genius.
wasn't on it. Don't worry.
Fair was,
no,
he was probably
I-
donating under his
the,
AKA.
the reason why Jill
Artemis.
the reason why Jill Stein posted that is because something that, again, I think the DNC and their allies deserve some criticism for are the lawsuits to try to get Jill Stein off the ballots, right? This is something that the RNC has actually been significantly better on. And in my state, and in many other states as well, like the Republican Party has intervened to try to like protect these third-party candidates to be on the ballot. This is something that, and so when Jill Stein is talking about this is a worthy criticism. And it's a worthy criticism that please should be able to be levied without, well, what about Trump?
No. This is another instance of absolute hypocrisy of the judiciary in this country. The fact that you have first of all, it is not uniform, this ballot issue, that there are certainly in Ohio there was an attempt to.
Okay. I know this is going to open a can of worms, but you're okay with the DNC trying to sue to get Jill Stein off the ballot?
100%. If it means reestablishing that states have primacy on their own rules for establishing who gets to be on a ballot or not, in opposition to this horrific Anderson ruling, I'm okay with it. Wouldn't you guys be in favor of getting Cenk Uygur off the ballot? I want yes or no's on that.
It's up to the state.
Wick,
If they
you
like
as
it,
well?
My understanding is Jill Stein met the requirements, though.
If they meet the
I'm
requirements,
sorry.
for the
Would you
ballot,
be
I
in
think they should
favor?
be on the ballot,
Would you be in
100%.
favor of challenges to Cenk Uygur's him being on the ballot? Yes or no?
Based on
Supreme
what
Court,
the-
no.
So you think that it's okay to have ineligible candidates on the ballot?
The state wants to, yes.
Oh, that's right. He's
They have done
he's
it
not a
before.
citizen,
They've elected
isn't he?
ineligible people.
I would also hold on. I would
like
also
the Constitution.
wait. Hold on. Also, fuck Pisco for playing into this. Okay. Does everybody here consider challenging something in court to be the same thing as weaponizing the court system? Or was this like an actual like part of Biden's DOJ that like tried to go after this?
So here's my answer to this is like what Tim Pool is doing with the courts right now is trying to weaponize the courts to silence his critics and opponents.
Hold on. No, stop. No. There is stop. Hold on. There is a meaningful difference between the person in charge of the court like abusing their power and weaponizing it versus like vexatious litigation or frivolous lawsuits.
Sure.
I think both are weaponization, though.
No, oh my God, hold on. No,
One is
oh
worse.
my
I
God.
agree with you. One is worse.
No, stop.
That they're both bad.
Stop.
They're not
Hold
the
on.
same thing.
Stop.
They're both
Stop.
weaponization.
Stop.
I
Stop
think so.
saying
No.
you can't use worse and better when you're comparing two things that are of a different kind because you're pretending that these things can be ranked next to each other. They are meaningfully different things. They are meaningfully different. One is somebody improperly abusing their power as a member of the executive or a member of the judicial, and another person is bringing a lawsuit that we may or may not think has merits. These are two completely different things. Yes?
Yes.
he's
So can I get an
We'll have
example? Is there
compare
any
these
examples
things
of the
and give the choices
Democrats?
on the options,
Are there
like-
any examples of the Democrats weaponizing the courts like Donald Trump tried to do with his own Department of Justice?
Like that specifically, I can't think of
No,
any.
not like that specifically, where a Democrat, okay, who was in charge of the courts or in charge of the executive tried to weaponize their system and abuse their power in the same way that Donald Trump tried to with his Department of Justice.
No.
Okay, thank you.
You asked us the question before. We both said like Trump, probably. Yeah.
Well, the
And-
reason why I bring
what
this
I'm saying is that
Yelling support.
maybe you don't agree, but I do think vexatious litigation is weaponizing the system. I think sovereign citizens weaponize the judicial system. I think that packing the court is weaponizing the system.
That's
right. There's
but
all.
these
there's-
aren't the
there's
same-
all- I think arguably. I think Eastman tried to weaponize the system. Like there's specific, definite, like
there's a
weaponizing is
difference.
broad.
There's a difference.
Hold
There's a
Hold
difference.
on, wait. Weaponizing is broad. Weaponizing is broad.
No.
But what I don't like is whenever I or other people point out weaponization or really anything bad the Democrats do, it's always what about Trump? It's always let's just like not even address that.
Because you're
Let's
not even
talk
talking
that.
about what are you more concerned about?
Republicans
hold on.
are
What
just
are you-
unprincipled,
What are
right?
you more concerned about? A corrupt litigant or a corrupt judge or prosecutor?
Judge or prosecutor.
He's going to grant that.
Yeah, generally,
So, and we wouldn't
Sure.
talk about these things in the same meaningful breath. We would say like,
I mean, it depends.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't depend. You would never talk about these in the same breath.
I'll explain why it depends, right? Like, let's say you had like a vexatious litigant who was like incredibly aggressive and had a lot of funds and was like pursuing you very aggressively. Like this would be a bigger headache and like a bigger weaponization than if let's say you had a judge who was like there was minor corruption discovered, but like it was like very difficult to like show any kind of like causation with any of their
Okay, so
decisions.
then Trump is even worse.
Wait.
The god of this.
Hold on. Yeah, any kind of effect on their decisions, et cetera, et cetera. So like it is a case by case basis.
No,
which is what I'm trying to say.
No. The difference is that if there's a system that is
generally speaking, sure.
No, functionally, if there is a system that's working functionally well, and some like if I had a guy, try to pound on my door, okay, and beat the shit out of me, I'm going to be more afraid of a smaller cop than a larger citizen, okay? Because the police officer represents something different there, right? That embodiment of executive force, especially if he's got the backing of the sheriff or other people in the police department. That's scarier. That's the system that is corrupted. And that's a meaningfully different type of threat than a citizen who's a threat. These are meaningfully different. So to use all of it in the same breath, well, the Democrats are corrupt because they tried to take people to court in the same way that Trump was corrupt and that he tried to use the courts is a nonsense statement.
Okay, did you rolling with your example? Like there are certain strangers that would make me more afraid than a cop, right? So like if you had like a small cop, right, who was like, again, there was
it's missing the point so hard. This is deliberate. This is maliciousness. No, you're not addressing anything. No, this is maliciousness. That's all this is. This is maliciousness. That's all it is.
Address the hypo.
Sorry. I apologize. I thought I was responding. Go ahead, Wick.
Lactoid is responding. Wait. Can I just ask Lactoid a question?
No. If I can't even respond,
I agree with
question, and then I can't.
Lactoid is right. No, Pisco shouldn't answer the question. No question for Pisco. Lactoid is right. No, I'm not being weaselly. When somebody presents two things like they're the same type of thing. If somebody says, "Oh, well, the Democrats weaponize the system like the Republicans weaponize the system," and I go, "No, it's a difference in substance." You're like, "Well, but we can hypothetically imagine a world where this is actually worse than the other thing."
He granted you that. Wait, he just granted you that in general.
No, he didn't. Then walk it back. Then okay, wait. Then would he grant then would you say that when Republicans abused the system under Trump, they abused it as the system, and you're unhappy with how Democrats are working their way through the courts?
He wasn't comparing them. He's saying that they're both bad.
Jesse, do you forget how this started? This started because you dug up apparently a retweet from me from Jill Stein, which is true.
I asked if there was an example of Democrats that were abusing the legal system in the same way that Trump did, and you gave me an example of court cases you don't like.
No. You brought up a tweet. You brought up a retweet, and I explained the retweet.
That's not an own. Being a litigant is not the same as being part of the system.
He never said it was.
I asked for a way that it was similar. How Trump abused. Do you think my issue with Trump is that he was in court?
He never said that it was.
Then it's not. These aren't in the same universe of things to compare. They're not even in the same universe of things. Oh my God, Pisco's just mad because I never remember that. His ethnicity, okay? Now Pisco's taking it out on me because he's upset. Pisco can't speak Spanish, by the way. He lies. I had a real Spanish friend with me once, and Pisco fucked all of his verbiage up because he doesn't know what the fuck he's saying in Spanish, okay? That's what he's mad about right now. That's what he's upset about right now.
I have 100% real. Wait, Lactoid, I just want to address your specific critique, which is like, it's always whataboutism. I think that it's okay for the Democrats to go after RFK Jr. in New York for like straight up fucking lying for no reason about his residency. You don't think that's okay?
Well, in that particular case, so I'm distinguishing which is why I retweeted the Jill Stein one. I'm distinguishing that from RFK because the basis for the Jill Stein one was complete bullshit. And that was, I think, weaponization legal system. When it comes to RFK, perhaps in that case-by-case basis, which I just finished saying, perhaps there's more of a basis for that. I don't know. I think that that's like, I've heard some things about the RFK situation that like that trouble me, but I haven't read into it enough to like come out here and make very strong.
¿Qué es diferente con el Stein de RFK? ¿Por qué son diferentes?
Yeah, that was terrible Spanish. He was Jesus.
Yeah, that was terrible.
No, it actually was terrible. It's insane. It's too late. Your ChatGPT answers. We get it. We get it. Okay.
Alguien que está aquí.
Okay.
I don't slow down there, Rubio.
Look, I only speak. I speak two languages. Okay, I speak American. I speak English. That's the only two languages we have on this show. Okay, with that, we're gonna end the fucking show. We can have this conversation another day. There are plenty of times where I have to fill slots, okay? And you can all fill my slots anytime you like. Gang, thank you for coming. This has been a spirited debate, a spirited discussion. Obviously, there are a lot of issues to cover. If you've enjoyed this content, if you've liked this content, hit that like button. I see over 1,000 views, but I see 60 likes. What is going on? No, like that fucking stream, okay? Do that right now. We got some great shows coming up, but I want to give each and every person here some closing thoughts. And we're going to start with Lactoid. We're going to end with Destiny. So Lactoid, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. If you like what I had to say, you can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I guess the last thing I'm going to say is it was brought up multiple times. during this discussion that, well, we're stuck with this now. Like the damage has been done. And again, like I've reiterated multiple times, the process that Mitch McConnell did, I don't agree with. That being said, this Supreme Court is one of the best we've ever had. And there's analyses on this, like originalist justices. They're more likely to disagree with each other. They're more likely to actually to write longer decisions. They're more likely to, in my opinion, will actually believe in the rule of law and actually believe in what does law mean, as opposed to engage in political hackery. And we see this constantly, right? We have Neil Gorsuch, side with the quote unquote liberals when the Constitution demands it. And frankly, I agree with Gorsuch on the Oklahoma decision. I think that he was correct there. I think ultimately the Supreme Court's great. Definitely don't pack it. God, please don't pack it. And if it gets packed, I seriously worry about the future of our republic. And the fact that I think Kamala Harris is so flippant about packing it should bring you major concern about whether or not she'd be a good president.
Okay, thank you for being here. The links to all the guests that were planned and not packed in are in the description. Ryan, please.
Don't stream, but you can follow me on Twitter, Ryan C. Mullally, with an obnoxious number of L's. Nice meeting everyone. Pisco, always fun to argue with you. So good to see you again. I was saying this before, but I think when they look at this second half of this panel, viewers might be confused why we weren't talking about court reform almost at all. But other than that, this conversation kind of struck me like, when you watch like a Greek tragedy, and you're like, well, wouldn't this just stop if they just stopped killing each other in these vendettas? Like, why are they doing this? Everyone's going to end up dead. And at the end of this conversation, you've got the rule of law and the legitimacy of law bleeding on the floor, and everyone's wondering, why didn't they just stop? And I was struck by the fact that before I got on this panel, I watched a little bit of the Trump interview on Lex Friedman's podcast. And Lex asked him, you call people communists, but they're not communists. And Trump said, well, they call me worse. They call me fascist, and you got to fight fire with fire. And there was a lot of fighting with fire advocated for on this panel today. And I didn't have Trump and Destiny Destiny and Pisco agreeing with Trump on tactics on my bingo card when this started. Ultimately, I think if we want to enhance the rule of law, we should do things that enhance the rule of law. And if you're proposing something that has a political benefit, but delegitimizes the rule of law, you should ask yourself, is this something that I should be doing? And if we all did that, it would be better. Is that idealistic? Maybe. I don't know. But I certainly left this panel feeling pretty good about my decision to be politically homeless because as we kind of got into it, it endlessly turns into who's doing the worst thing rather than what would be the better thing. And I'm speaking long, but the most telling example of that possible is that Destiny, who is not a political candidate, came in with a proposed reform that pretty much everyone agreed was a good idea in some version. There's some debate, and has been proposed by no candidate. It's not like we're so smart that we came up with this and the lawyers on their teams haven't. It's not being proposed because taking the way towards legitimizing the system is not either party's goal. And that's the bummer right now. That's the Greek tragedy. That's why everyone dies at the end.
Well, hopefully we can avoid that. Check him out, gang. I put a link to his Twitter in my YouTube description. Zetsui, please.
I kind of checked out there. But even to your little hypothetical, like we're all the Greek tragedy, the fact is from Pisco and Destiny's standpoint, the fact is if Republicans just keep stabbing you, the answer of like, well, let's not stab back. And you're like, great, then we're all dead. It's not like it's a better tragedy that all of your enemies just destroy you and you just sit there and take it. Obviously we kind of went off the rails there, and I am not a streamer. Just has to be here by Lactoid. Just a fan of Pisco and Destiny mostly, but
and we love him.
And I don't know, but I guess for Pisco, your conversation you had with, actually no, we shouldn't go. I was just say your conversation, I feel like the one you had with Stitch and Adam, like they exemplified what I feel like you did in this call. It feels like you talk for 5 minutes, demand a one-word answer, and then you call the person a liar if they don't like the answer they give, and then you talk for another 5 minutes. I just feel like, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
But I realize you're passionate. I realize you're angry about this. But sorry, I'll stop it.
He refused to give me links to his stuff, so I don't have links for him. Gibbs, give us what you got.
Long story short, I feel like this is just another case of cope from the Dems. they put forth a strategy. They got outplayed in this situation, and now they want to take the ball and go home. It's typical participation trophy bullshit. I mean, half the panel we argued about tit for tat and quid pro quo, and they did this. So is this a fair compromise replacement if we get this back? It was just a lot of like whining and weeping and gnashing of teeth, and I think it's pretty clear that's exactly what that was. We can argue about like all this, in the weeds shit about it, but it's clearly just a case of like Trump derangement syndrome and bitch assness. I mean, especially whenever we just had at the rally, Dana Bash admitting that, hey, we're not the party of testosterone-laden men, we're the party of the betas. Like, so, passive aggressive tactics. That's what I come to expect from the Dems. So, par for the course. If you like what I had to say, you can find me at Admiral Gibbs on pretty much every platform: Twitch, Kick, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Check it out. It'll be good times. We do a lot of fun stuff.
Links in my YouTube description. Last but certainly not least, Destiny. Please.
Wait. Don't I go first?
Pisco, you don't get a spot here. You were a last-minute ad.
I don't get a closing statement.
Thank you for my closing statement. Pisco is bitch made. Okay. Fake lawyer. He never sent proof, by the way, for his legal flair. Apparently, Cyber Vegan gave it to him. Okay, because he sent him cocaine from his home country. Okay, no. The frustrating thing is that when you're a Democrat, it feels like Republicans never have to account for anything. When every time a Democrat enters office, okay, it's on the backs of a destroyed fucking economy, all right? Whether it was 2007 and the housing crisis and Obama coming in, whether it was 2020 and the COVID that Trump denied, okay, until the very fucking end, all right, that Biden had to come in off of. The Republicans are never held to account for a single thing they ever do. And this idea that the Democrats are the frog swimming and the Republicans are the scorpion stabbing over and over and over again, and people are saying, well, we have to come to the table and negotiate. We have to come to the table and negotiate. In no other circumstance in life would you ever say this, okay? Appeasement didn't work with Hitler, and giving a crying child in a store candy bar after candy bar, okay, doesn't make the child less of a spoiled fuck. So at some point, somebody has to demonstrate to the Republicans that they can't play these types of games and expect that they can still have a seat at the table. Something has to give, because the country is on like a one-way track to destruction led by the fucking Republicans, and the idea that we have to hitch our wagon to them to be the adults and watch as we all get sunk in some crazy mindfuck experiment where the current guy running for president doesn't even believe that the results of the last election are real are fucking insane. At the end of the day, the only lesson you need to take is that if his Twitter account would have been fire enough, the current conservative establishment and all of the independents that support Trump would have supported the same with fucking Hitler, okay? As long as he owned the libs hard enough. And that standard is fucking absurd.
Gang, it was fun. I love you all.
You're serious. I don't get a closing statement.
Please go. Closing. Okay.
Give him one. Let him
Gracias
close.
a todos por permitirme estar en el
Oh my
panel.
God.
Gracias a
your
Gibbs
closing
por ser
thought.
un agente secreto. I'm just kidding. No. I
Pisco
really.
le gusta la verga grande en tu culo.
Okay, enough of this. Is why I didn't want to give you.
No, okay. I'm
Español.
no, it's a joke. This is a joke. So to be 100% real, I think that Steven is absolutely coping on the issue that he had at the end there with Lactoid. It was absolutely embarrassing for him to put words in Lactoid's mouth. Lactoid at no point said that it was the same kind of violation to use the instrumentalities of the judicial system as to having a kind of litigant. He just said they were both bad. But Steven has this thing where he cannot give ground any time when his ego's at stake. Another example of that is the following.
The Supreme Court case that
he claimed that cigarettes were price elastic. And then when I asked him how would I have to show that the demand for cigarettes are price inelastic, he said, I don't know, it would be too complicated. It sounds like he's just bullshitting at all times. It sounds like he doesn't really understand a lot of these concepts, and he'll just come in sounding as confident as possible. When you push a little bit, it shows that he maybe doesn't. Yeah.
Quick question. You know what else is elastic?
What?
Your position on the panel.
Oh my God.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, gang. It was fun. Hit that
Thanks,
like
Wick.
button.
I love you,
Watch me.
even though you're evil.
I love you all.
Be careful.
Goodbye.
Bye.
End this stream. Bye. Okay.
Cigarettes are elastic over time. The thing is that when you do it for elasticity, it's not just a one-time thing.
I don't care about the cigarettes.
My
okay?
dick is
I'm
elastic
gonna
right now.
stream that.